Welcome, everybody, to a special holiday edition of the One Up Years program. I'm Garnet Lee, and glad to have you here for Black Friday, which everyone misinterprets. It's not actually black because it's bad. It's black because that's when the retailers start making money.
This year, we'll see how black it is.
This year might be Red
Friday.
Red Friday.
Blood Friday.
Oh, my gosh.
Are any of you going shopping on Friday?
No.
I'm not.
There's some doorbusters at 5 a.m. at Best Buy. I might go.
The doorbuster's not even that good. Anyway, so here we got the regular crew here today. We have Shane and David and John with me. We're going to do two segments. The first segment, we're going to do What You've Been Playing, where we'll kind of catch up on the stuff, and we'll throw a couple of quick news stories in there. And then the entire second segment, while you're out, hopefully maybe listening to us while you're shopping or whatever you're doing today, we do some holiday game stories off of the boards, and we got some great game stories. I love them. There's some really good stuff. It was amazing to me. I was talking to John about this at lunch today. How many times Nintendo came up in holiday stories? And it's not as much so in the Wii generation, although that might be somewhat a function of who was on the boards. But man, during the Super Nintendo years, especially, they own the holidays.
Of a certain generation, is that it?
Yeah, telling you, everybody's reminiscing about all of their.
Well, and for many years, Nintendo kind of owned Thanksgiving weekend with a big release, be it Zelda or Mario. Or
they really did. So
have you.
It's an interesting picture.
This year not so much.
Do they have anything this week?
This year, it's
Personal Cooking Trainer came out this week.
Yeah, but I think it's
gourmet.
It's reruns otherwise. It's Animal Crossing, and I already kind of saw that one.
I'm still interested to see Animal Crossing, but there are other games.
You've seen it. You've seen it a couple times.
And
before.
in this bleak economic climate, there's nothing I want to spend $50 more on than a mortgage.
We did
a virtual mortgage.
We did a holiday guide thing, and we just picked a dozen games in categories for boys, girls, moms, and a lot of people were like, "Why didn't you put Animal Crossing in?" And it's like, well, it's
like you said, Shane, with this economic climate, you might want to get used to the idea of indentured servitude.
Hey-o. So you might need a government bailout for Tom Nook. Tom Nook's $2 billion bailout.
Jesus Christ.
The sound insulation is falling off the walls again onto Shane's head.
Things fall apart.
Oh, dear. The 8th floor studio is not really a studio.
Speaking of
we're in Jeff Green's office.
It is Jeff Green's old office, and it still has the PC game watch list on the wall here.
I think his office is haunted.
They got some fun ones up here. Duke Nukem Forever is up there.
So it's Project Origin.
It's not even ironic. Or Project Origin, which is now Fear 2, looks good.
How glad are they that they moved to next year?
Oh,
seriously. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about what we've been playing. Actually, what have we been playing? Do we want to do the cultural what we've been playing, or do we want to do the games we've been playing first?
Well, there's a lot of both.
I know.
We were talking about culture beforehand.
We were doing culture beforehand.
John and I have been spinning the black circle that is Chinese democracy.
We have.
The black circle?
That's what they called a record back in the day. Really? Not that I bought the record, but there was a record at Best Buy. And my funny story is, so Best Buy, the only retailer in America where you can purchase Chinese democracy, a physical object. I go there on Sunday, the day it came out. There's a big display, and it's almost sold out. I'm like, wow, I picked one of the last copies they had out. Took it to the counter. The girl is like, "What is this? Like some band?" ?
No.
For real. And I don't expect. She's young. She's maybe 20. But, it is a big deal, kind of, that Best Buy is selling the CD. So I tell her, well, this is one of the big rock bands from the 80s. Probably the last big rock band, hard rock from the 80s. And they're good. And this album's been 14 years in the making. And she's like, my boyfriend likes Metallica. Will he like it? I'm like, oh, probably. So, but I just found it funny that she didn't know what Guns N' Roses was.
Well, actually, to be fair, they're not really like some band anymore.
It's like Axl Rose.
And an army of guitarists.
But I was saying, I like the army of guitarists because it's just weird, technical, complex, crazy,
multi-track. One of the tracks, I think, has 5 guitarists on it. And I think they're all playing at once.
I think they are. And it's heavily produced operatic rock, and I think it's the music that was in Axl Rose's head, and he finally got to make it.
I think that's what it is. This is obviously what. Have you heard it yet?
No, but it sure took a long time to get out of his head then, didn't it?
Well, he recorded every song at a different studio with different people, and
yeah, it's like a big studio album then, right?
Some of it is really epic, and some of it is really strange.
Yeah, and a lot of the good songs have really strange intros, so you'll think the song is terrible for 40 seconds, then it gets kind of good.
None of this really surprises me in the least, this description so far. The one thing that really did surprise me was when you tweeted that it was like Queensryche. I was like,
there are multiple parts where, because he's always had that kind of, when he goes in that kind of supersonic range that he goes into.
The upper register, but he also uses the lower register, like on Shackler's Revenge. It's very
brooding
and creepy. Which is also
very much deeper than he used to go as well.
Yeah, it almost doesn't even sound like him.
Yeah.
You know?
But a lot of guitars, the guitar solo is fully back
Yeah, and in terms of Queensryche, I mean, just the bombastic. It's very bombastic. It's this big. This is rock with a capital R, meant for stadiums and choirs.
It makes me want to go play the. What was it in Guitar Hero?
Shackler's Revenge.
Yeah.
That song's it's good. Yeah. And I think the title track, the first song, is really good, and Better's a good. There's like 6 really good songs out of 14. Or something. But
6 out of 14 isn't, I guess, a bad ratio.
But don't you kind of want to be
these days?
Don't you want to be part of the last CD ever? Like the big, like where were you when Chinese Democracy finally came out?
The last CD ever has been unleashed on the world. So it's all part of the end of days. We have Chinese Democracy, so obviously we're getting there.
Well, you see, China's very upset about it. They're planning to ban it because there are some lyrics that offend them.
What?
Really? Allegedly, yeah, I read that story today. Yeah.
Well, have you read the lyrics? Are there parts in there that are potentially
There's a
offensive?
metaphor about the wall, about the Great Wall of China that they find offensive.
And there's some Iron Fist reference.
What? Like King of Iron Fist tournament?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought maybe they could bring back Tekken.
But as John and I said, we think it's going to be a huge success too. If you look at AC/DC, Black Ice sold 2 million copies, and I think this is a bigger deal than that actually.
Yeah.
How many songs have the word rock and Chinese Democracy in the title?
None. As opposed to 70% of the ones on Black Ice.
I'm not really into this whole retail outlet exclusivity though. It's kind of
the only way to do it because most people are downloading it. I mean, if you'd pre-ordered Chinese Democracy years, it was funny because now if on they didn't update iTunes, and if you the little arrow you get in iTunes where you click on the album and it takes you to the page,
right.
It was still doing this yesterday, but if you clicked on it, it said, Chinese Democracy will not be available until November 24th, 2038.
That's awesome. That is kind of funny.
But I thought Chinese Democracy was a much better release this Sunday than the 24 Redemption made-for-TV debacle.
You and David are both wrong. It was awesome, and 24 has been redeemed.
I'm a real 24 fan from day one.
I'm a real 24 fan as well.
A fake
I know.
like you got it.
I've been with it through the ups and downs, and there've been a lot of downs lately.
Well,
last season was abysmal.
Okay, first of all, last season was not abysmal. It was just
Garnet
game.
It lost like 25% of its viewers, and from episode.
Well, even worse, the worm turned, and everybody hates it, and it's now this great fun thing. Let's hate on 24. We don't want to enjoy it
near the end of last season, me and Mark and Skip and all the guys who watch it have been watching it for years. From episode to episode, we'd be like, do we even really want to watch the next one? I almost gave up.
Yeah, if you get to a point where you don't care what's going to happen at the end, it's done.
And this movie, it wasn't terrible. It was just kind of boring. And considering the budget, there weren't that many action scenes and
There weren't that many action.
Not really.
Did we watch the same show?
They were low budget action.
Yeah, there's
see how I used your own words on you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember now.
That was 5 days ago or a couple days ago.
All that LDS messed you up, huh?
You've been going to the Mormon church? You're in Twilight? Were you watching Twilight instead?
I think was that a Star Trek 4 reference?
It was.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice pickup off the scoop.
Let everybody else in on this.
And Star Trek 4, Spock's supposed to be playing a hippie. They go back in the past, and Kirk is trying to explain his odd ways by trying to say he took LSD back in the 60s in Berkeley, but he says LDS instead. It's not so funny once you've explained
what
it.
An obscure
Either
reference.
get it or you don't.
It was sort of obscure. All right.
For me, I'm not really a 24 guy, but I've always wanted to get into it.
This wasn't a good
And apparently I picked the worst time ever to get into it. Like Shane said, it's just boring. There was a couple of really kind of generic action scenes that could have been in any TV movie of the week.
And also, you figured out the entire plot in the first 15 minutes. As soon as they introduced to the concept of, we have this piece of paper that will make you come back to America, and Dave was like, obviously, Jack Bauer is going to trade the innocent African children for his going back into custody.
Yeah.
And that's horrible that they did that?
It's contrived and obvious.
And so I don't understand what you're saying. It has to have some kind of secret twist that you didn't expect within this 2-hour movie that's just a setup for next season in order for it to be good.
But didn't Jon Voight play the exact same character in that movie with Gene Hackman and Will Smith?
I think so.
The evil Washington bureaucrat that kills people.
I will say, Candyman as the villain is pretty spirited casting.
He's also one of the most lenient African generals I think I've ever seen. Not that I've seen a lot.
Oh, come on.
I just felt all the stuff going on in Washington, D.C. was ridiculous. And all these characters you don't care about. No one you care about.
Low budget and cheap.
Yeah,
maybe that's what they're going for at this point. They want cheesy, over the top. We're jumping the shark each and every episode. Come watch the train wreck.
It's 24. It's running on empty. And Jack Bauer's not even a believable character. Why does he need to be redeemed? He's had 7 seasons of ultimately sacrificing himself for the greater good every year. And now now we need to save some little children.
The amount of vitriol coming out of them and over
It's
this
not
whole
vitriol.
thing.
we were at
It's disinterest.
we were at a 24 celebration party at Patrick Klepek's house.
So why
we were
are you
playing the 24 board game?
You know what? I think you guys I saw that Patrick was doing that, and now I've figured out exactly what you're doing. You were all getting together so you could all act very smug and smart and like
No,
pat
it was-
each other on the back for how much you hate 24.
It was 24's last rites.
It's how much you can be.
was
Oh,
awake
look, we're all
for Jack
right.
Bauer.
Like, and when they wheel out Tony Almeida, it's just like stab you in the heart from remembering what season 1 and 2 were like, and fucking he's like a bad zombie now. It's like I don't even want to know.
He's not a bad.
I mean, I'm gonna watch it in January because like the trailer for season 7 or 8, whatever it is, it looked better than what we just seen. But
Granted, did you buy the DVD so you get the 17-minute exclusive preview for the new season?
No, I didn't buy the DVD. I don't need the 17-minute preview. I'm going to watch the damn season. I'm actually excited and interested to watch the show. I mean,
it wasn't as bad as Heroes.
I have a radical suggestion.
yes.
Can we talk about games?
Yes, that's fine. We can talk about games. Anyway, like I don't even get to make an argument for it. It's fine. It's fine.
You loved it.
I thought it was good. I like really enjoyed that
We had just finished watching it, and on your Twitter, you're very popular Twitter with a lot of followers. You tweeted about how great it was. And we're like,
I thought it was
really?
fantastic. I liked it a lot. I liked the tie back to his days in the Special Forces. I thought the guy who was like leading up the American Children's School was a cool character.
Train Spotting, yeah. I like him as an actor.
I loved it when the little kid dropped his blouse and ended up killing Jack Bauer's partner. It was great. Anyway, moving right along.
Wow. Now I know what it's like when they hit on your video games, folks. Like when they hit on your video games, now I know where you're coming from out there in the forum lands. It's like, why you guys killed my video game? I liked it.
If you want to watch some good television, I suggest a show called Lost.
Dude, wait a minute. Lost has a lot of fans, but every time I'm like, it's so contrived.
Best network,
it's so contrived.
It's the best network television in the last 15 years.
Really, better than all of the 24s.
Yes.
Better than all, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think they agree.
To each their own. I'm going to leave it at to each their own. Okay, how about that? Leave it to each their own, and that's that.
What have you been playing?
Actually, I started playing Tomb Raider over the weekend because I was really looking forward to that, and I have to say that
you're an old fan, right?
I am a longtime fan of Tomb Raider, and I was extremely satisfied up until the point where I started having to pull the trigger on guns.
Well, yeah, when I was watching the One Up Show last week and they showed the combat, I don't know if that was just the way whoever was playing was just like leaping wildly around, shooting every guy like 20 times in the face.
Yeah, it's still sort of that kind of mechanic.
It was just so arcadey and unrealistic. You know, like
It is. I think that it's really interesting. A lot of people said last week when we talked about this, well, why would you choose this when there's Prince of Persia out there and there's, what's the other one that Mirror's Edge that is out there? And I think each of them does a specific part of what they do really well, you know? And you can also include in like Drake's Fortune. The shooting elements of that are really good.
Yeah.
So now when you play Tomb Raider, and as soon as you pick up a gun, you're like, whoa, this is not as good as Uncharted.
I heard it's like 20% combat, is it?
I hope
accurate?
so. So far from when I played, it is, and that would be a really, really good thing for it because the exploratory part of this game has gotten really good. Like the very first scene that you're in, that's not the first scene is like a little prologue, but the first real area that you're in, you're scuba diving, and you actually feel like you're in an open area exploring. I mean, I actually felt like, wow, the game is not just pulling me with a rope down a path. I actually have to swim around some, see where I need to go. I'm exploring these ruins. I thought that
what do you
was
think
really
of the story? Because they're kind of going out on a limb because they've never really touched on anything beyond her father before. The fact that it's about mommy this time.
Well, they brought mommy in last time, so it's an extension somewhat of the story from Legend, right? Where she finds it goes back into a bunch of her story where she was on a plane that crashed in the Andes, and her mom is like taken away to a Norse underworld, but it wasn't the underworld. It wasn't.
Did Dennis Dyack capture her mom?
That is like the first thing she finds is the gauntlet that lets her wield Thor's hammer.
Serious?
Yeah, seriously.
Making that up.
No. And she has to go, and the world that she's seeking out is Helheim. She has to go to Helheim. I shit you not.
I mean, it doesn't completely surprise me because Tomb Raider's story isn't entirely serious, and it's not like people love Lara Croft as a character. Like, I can't wait to learn more about her story. No, she's much tits.
No, I mean, I think
she's a big pile of tits.
I think the exploration part they really have down well. The presentation is really, really. It's become super cinematic. The music is really atmospheric. Like it has this really cool environmental music when you're like, for instance, you're like underwater and you get like this very. ethereal sort of music. It's very musicy sound. It's very movie sound.
Very musicy.
It's very
This music is so music.
You're wasted in games criticism. It's like music is your forte, definitely.
It's a very
musicy is very musicy.
It's very.
I like this game because it was so gamey.
How much did you play? I hear it's short. That's the other complaint. It's like 7 hours long or something.
It's very movie soundtrack like in the way it
they
paints
use in Legend and in the remakes. They was it the Moscow Orchestra or something they were using? I mean, it's a real orchestra in the soundtrack, right?
Yes, and it's really cool. I really like the way they put it. Length, I would have to say that based on the fact that our friend Jeff Kanata already finished it, and I know he just started over the weekend, I would have to say that I agree that it does appear that it's going to be fairly brief. And there is, and I haven't seen it yet, but evidently the rumor is that the real ending, and I'm using quotes, is going to be the paid content.
Ending sold separately.
Yeah, which if that is the case, that is going to be. Even if I'm a fan, even if I love it, how can I not condemn that? That's terrible. You can't do that to people. That's not right.
Are they talking about 6 hours worth of DLC over the course of multiple episodes?
I think that's the number Nick has thrown out, but
that's what they told him. But it seems unlikely considering the game itself is like 7 to 8 hours long.
I haven't followed the game. I mean, if the game is 6 or 7 hours of good, I'm perfectly happy with that. Yeah. If it has a real ending and it wraps up well, I'm perfectly happy with that.
But it got all good reviews in EGM. It did.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, again, the exploration part is really good. The controls feel a little twitchier than I remember them being, but maybe it's just a matter of not having played that game for a while.
So is that the new threshold, $10 an hour?
I don't put it. You know what? That's weird that you say that. I don't really put a dollar value on the hour.
It's a better bargain than a Hollywood movie at theater.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be. Wow, it's a really. I hate distilling games to an economic proposition.
How much would you pay per minute?
Yeah, I mean, because that's the bullshit of it, right? It's like you can boil it down.
Well, no, I'm not talking about it in the but I think in terms of what they pack in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a $60 game. It's a full price game.
It is a $60 game, and when you're looking at games like,
I heard it was a $50 game.
But if it's 6 or 7, fully packed, high quality, experience, then that's great. But if it's just like the others, where there was a lot of all the Tomb Raiders have been full of fluff.
I've played through 3 levels, and I have not hit a lot of fluff. I've hit a lot of just really, really strong adventuring. Lots of places where I'm wandering around trying to figure stuff out and going, okay, this is really cool.
Well, the puzzles are more organic than the old Tomb Raider games. Mm-hmm. It's more like Uncharted that way.
And yeah, I agree with that because I think that's part of why I'm in these environments, and I feel like them actually exploring and not just walking down hallway 3 to get to piece number 2 of the switch to open the door for the next hallway.
Well, and there's multiple ways to get through them. I was watching Nick, and there's a cord that you can reach out and a grappling hook kind of, and you, depending on how you pull it, what angle, whether you pull it around a column and use it to yank stuff out to the side.
It has real physics too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that stuff looked really cool.
I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a good exploration game. Again, the fundamental flaw of the game at the moment is the combat, and I think really, that's where it's going to get knocked.
You playing it on 360?
Yeah.
Is the Wii one the same?
I do not know the answer to that question. I presume it must be. I can't imagine that Crystal has the money to do 2 different games at this moment.
If there's a PS2 version, it's probably the PS2 version.
Right. I mean, just with it, if it's got a lot of physics stuff in it, I'd be surprised.
Physics, there's not that much of it. I think the Wii and PS2 shouldn't have any problems doing what I saw.
The game and the environments and the textures in the environments and the furnishing in the environments look really, really good. Lara herself, I don't think looks quite as well modeled or as high a polygon count as the rest of the environments.
Keeping kind of a slightly cartoony style.
They definitely are.
That makes her look less realistic than everything else in the game.
She also wouldn't be recognizable if she was all bump map, normal map. The slightly cartoony thing is kind of what Lara Croft
unless
is.
they can get Angelina Jolie's likeness or something and make her look like Angelina Jolie.
I do kind of wish they'd go back to the iconic Lara look than just sort of generic large-breasted girl in black outfit.
No argument, although she did get a breast reduction.
Yeah, but I think
you wanted her to look like a hideous polygon, the original, trapezoids and shit?
The original look with the blue shirt and there was an iconic Lara look that they've been. I mean, now she's just wearing sort of very skimpy fatigues, basically.
You can choose her costume when she goes into the jungle. You can choose her in jungle shorts or jungle action pants.
Oh, fantastic!
Jungle action pants.
Well, I couldn't remember what they were called, so it was
jungle action pants.
Lara Croft with jungle action pants available Tuesday. I don't know. So anyway, there you go.
Fun with it though. So.
I think another thing that stands out about her specifically is, and this is also, I mean, I know that everyone, it's difficult to not compare to Uncharted because Uncharted really captures that
Shane
same
is
vibe.
drawing polygonal Lara. With
This is like
square
original
breasts.
Lara Croft.
Oh
like,
my
wow,
God.
she has
Her
like
breasts were triangles,
And
as you recall.
I was a fan of Douglas Copeland's work. And he wrote Generation X.
Yeah.
And he wrote, you might remember, in the height of Lara Croft's zeitgeist, this is my favorite word, he wrote Lara's book, which is like this creepy love letter
I
to
do
Lara
remember
Croft.
that,
And he's a
yeah.
really good author, and I was, what?
Yeah.
So, there you go, Jody. Can have that.
so when she
Oh,
does
thank you. Will you sign it for me?
Sure.
eBay.
when she does all of the wall climbing and shimmying along ledges and all that sort of things, she doesn't articulate as well or as naturally as they did in Uncharted. So, for instance,
It's more like canned animation.
it looks sort of like
But when
canned
she's walking,
animation.
when she's like
and
hand over hand on those walls, it looks really good, I felt.
that looks really good.
Yeah.
When she's clambering up walls, though, her joints tend to move at unnatural angles and in unnatural positions, and it makes her like. At first, I thought, well, maybe it's just very like simian, but then I'm like, no, I've never even seen a monkey move like this. Like she doesn't like look right as she like tilts and bends in odd positions to like go up the climbing walls, and so it's a little distracting. But I think the exploration part of it's really good. I think they captured a lot of the spirit of Tomb Raider correctly, which is big environments, cool mythology, and a real sense of, gee whiz, wow, this is a cool place I'm exploring.
So, you've never really gone off Tomb Raider, but I think a lot of people did. Is it good enough to win people back?
Well, yes, if they are well, that's going to be it's a good thing we talked about 24. It's going to depend entirely on whether or not you're interested in being won back. If you're not interested in being won back, you're going to see the flaws in the combat, and that's
It
going
is
to bug
Tomb
you
Raider
to start.
9, technically.
Wow, yeah. It is a really strong Tomb Raider exploration game. If you like that part of the game, I think you'll really enjoy it. I'd like to be able to come back to it next week, hopefully after finishing it, and be able to tell you that it's a complete adventure, because that would be, a big part of the whole package for me. So, and then I understand the value proposition. I mean, we've been playing a lot of Left 4 Dead, and I've gotten drawn into Call of Duty World at War, and these are also $60 games that are going to give you, literally hours upon hours of game if you're into the multiplayer.
Right. Well, right now, I think the value proposition on games is more important consideration than ever, because I think
It
people
is.
are choosing very carefully what they're spending their money on, and
So I get that, and I appreciate that, and so that's why I didn't want to jump into that argument about like, is it a value for the dollar? Because the game,
quiet.
yeah, well, maybe so. That's definitely where you're at, probably. And World at War, I got back into that, man. I can't believe how quickly Call of Duty 4 engine with World War II stuff in it drew me into it. We were talking about this before the show, David and and I was not anticipating that I would get pulled into the multiplayer, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be Call of Duty 4 engine. I played a lot of Call of Duty 4. But then, man, I was like, I like the maps. Like, there's a couple, like we talked about last time, we talked about the maps, and they were the maps in the beta, but they're good maps. I like the weapons, the RPG-like part of leveling up your guy and hitting the accomplishments, the achievements, and unlocking new weapons or new add-ons to your weapons. It works just like it did before.
I've been reading the fights online, and they seem to boil down to two basic arguments. One of them is just that Infinity Ward are better than Treyarch, and therefore this is not as good, which is just misguided. And then the other one is the World War II versus modern argument, and it just keeps going and going and going on those two arguments and combinations of those two.
Well, let's not have them, and we can move on, because we talked about it last time in a shootery.
But it just seems, it seems like there's a lot of people enjoy. There's certainly a lot of people buying it.
There were
my brother's
57,000 people playing when I logged in last night.
My brother's a Call of Duty 4 freak. He's gone through, leveled up 3 times all the way to 55, and he picked up World at War, and I was actually kind of expecting him to kind of not be into it, and he absolutely loves it. Picked it up and is having a great time with it. I definitely want to go through the co-op stuff with you. I wish it was more like the way they split up the co-op, you have to log into a lobby after every level, so you can't just play straight through.
That's kind of weird.
You have to re-team up.
I think you stay in like a party, but it's weird. It takes you out to a lobby at the end of the level, and then you have to start at the next level and play through it. It's kind of weird, but
yeah, that is really weird, actually. Huh.
Yeah, but I definitely want to play through it. I mean, I was watching Tina and Anthony, and they seemed to really enjoy it, and Greg dug it, so it's good.
Cool.
You've been playing
All
penguins.
kinds of stuff.
Penguins.
Yeah, I can do that
Penguins
first.
ain't natural.
I was just reading
I just like the juxtaposition of going from Call of Duty and
the show notes from 1UP FM are here, and it says Club Penguin Elite Penguin Force. John Davison told me this is a Monkey Island-esque point-and-click adventure, and it's actually pretty good. John Davison may be a sick, perverted man.
Well, those are not necessarily linked to one another, and they're both accurate.
But not connected.
Wait,
in any
No,
way.
right. They're totally not connected.
Club
They are
Penguin is an
accurate.
adventure game?
It is an adventure game. So, I mean, the online game it's a virtual world, and it's just sort of, online hangout chat with mini games.
Are you a penguin?
You are a penguin, and you're a penguin secret agent.
Naturally.
Dude,
already in a
James
tuxedo.
Pond,
But that is actually what I called my penguin in when I was playing.
James Pond, the penguin version.
But
Amiga
it's
32
like
lives on.
it uses it's the exact same graphics as that, so it's that very cartoony 2D cel shaded look. But it's a LucasArts Sierra point and click adventure type thing where you're talking to people and working out pieces of mysteries by piecing objects together to solve things, and then the solution to that is then the chained puzzles that you used to get in the
Right.
old Lucas. It's just with a very friendly
Is it funny?
face on it. It's funny.
Yeah?
It's very polite because it's the
Excuse
Club
me, madam and or sir.
It's that kind of it's that very kind of polite Club Penguin vibe to it, but it was way more adult in terms of what it's asking of you because I thought it's going to be a very, very kiddie, very saccharine,
Right.
And it's not. I mean, it's got these very simple stylus gesture-based mini games which you can kind of play on their own without going through the narrative. But the narrative, there's a lot of reading, there's a lot of multiple choice stuff, there's a lot of you're decoding things with this decoder gadget, and then you've got to go talk to this guy to find this object. And I'm like, this structure is very, very familiar, and it works so well on the DS because it's all stylus based. There's no button presses at all for anything. But this game, it's got D-Gamer support, so it's got like the Xbox Live type thing, which you can now listen to music over.
Really, for Disney's thing?
Yeah. It's going to have DLC.
Whoa.
Wow.
How's that going to work? Do you have to have the DSi or?
No, you just connect. You connect up with through the Wi-Fi connection, and what it does is it drops. At least I assume this is how it's going to work. I got a question out to the developer on how it's going to work specifically, but in terms, you have this the entire Club Penguin world is there. Mm-hmm. So what the DLC presumably is going to be dropping new objectives into the story to further it. And using save game slots or
That's
something.
cool. So
Are
it changed some trigger points.
Are they charging for the DLC? I'm assuming.
I don't think so.
No.
So I'll know
That's
more for
refreshing.
sure. But I was like very surprised at how, and the sad thing is it's a very interesting DS game using existing franchise that a lot of people are just going to completely ignore on principle
So,
because of the
what
brand.
do you think the audience is? The intended audience?
The intended audience, I think, is 10-year-olds.
Like, not like as low as like 5?
No, because there's so much reading. I mean, it's like...
So it is pretty intense, actually.
And
for
you're
kids.
also, it's not just reading the text and it telling you what to do. It's reading it and reading the meaning into it as well. There's some pretty difficult comprehension stuff in it because of the way that it's asking. It's like dropping very subtle hints into things that people are telling you.
And is it cool enough to where if you're like a 13-year-old, you won't feel like you're a baby for playing this game?
I think so. I think some people are just going to dismiss it because it's Club Penguin on principle. But I think so there's a lot of people that have no frame of reference at all. And for them, I mean, I can see people like my mom who love the old LucasArts adventures, like really getting into this because she loves the DS and she loved those kinds of games, and it's the exact same way of thinking that it's asking of you, and it's kind of cute, but it seems huge as far as I can tell. I mean, I was like playing through it, it just kept surprising me. I'm like, I must be done.
Value proposition is not a problem with this game.
No, I think it's epic, and it's got like card sharing 2-player games, and it's got multiplayer for up to 4 players. It's got all the Wi-Fi stuff and DLC coming, and just like, geez, they throw everything they have into this.
Disney's serious.
Disney's dead serious.
Dead serious.
And then the other thing I played that's...
Well, hold on a second before you leave that thought, because I thought the other thing that was interesting we talked about at lunch was how you said this was just part of what's actually a really interesting lineup of DS games that are out there right now that people are maybe not looking at or not seeing for a number of reasons.
Well, actually, the other thing about before we move on to that this does is if you buy the game, you get a code. So if it's a cross promotional device as well. So you get a code that you put into the online game, and it opens up exclusive content there. There's a lot of that kind of stuff happening now between a lot of these online virtual worlds. There's a Cars one coming, and then there was Pixie Hollow launched a while ago that has toys that open stuff up. But there's this, and then there's the Neopets game came out this week as well, Puzzle Adventure, which is Puzzle Quest mixed with Othello, with Neopets stuff, reversey kind of thing. But there's 3. There's a PC, a Wii, and a DS version, and each of them unlock 10 codes each that open stuff up
For the Neopets pyramid scheme, that one?
Yeah. So not only is the game itself that way, but like there's a reason to. If you're really into it, there's a reason to buy each of the home console versions.
Well, of course there is. That way you get your sponsor more money.
But as a basic puzzle game, particularly the DS one, it's a lot of fun.
And Star Wars.
Yeah, I talked about that before, though. And I'm still shocked that hardly anyone has even reviewed that game.
The Lego Star Wars Complete Saga, that one?
No, the
Clone
Jedi
Wars.
Alliance, the Clone Wars game on DS.
That's out?
Yeah, came out like 3 weeks ago.
It's kinda like a Ninja Gaiden.
It's been reviewed by like one site.
It's based on the cartoon or the movie?
It's based on the cartoon.
Chris Baker told me I needed to watch that cartoon because Jar Jar was in last week's episode, but I failed to watch it.
Your favorite character?
He is my favorite.
What else have you been playing?
I've been continuing with the Far Cry stuff. And
Do you have malaria yet?
I do have malaria. I was
You
actually...
start with malaria, pretty much.
I mean, I know you want to talk about it when you've had a chance to play it some more, but I've been surprised at how role-playing it becomes.
John's quote to me earlier was, dude, you have to play this. I was like,
It does some interesting stuff with the way that it manages the relationships with the other. Because at the beginning of the game, you choose one of the sort of mercenary assassin
Like
type
a
characters.
faction to help, or
Well, I think there's like 8 or 10 guys.
Yeah, as you're going along.
Yeah, and you pick one of them, and then whichever one you pick, the other 9 become characters in the game. And there's a friend system where you meet these guys and you befriend them, and they each have a use to you. So, like, one of them will modify weapons, and one of them will come and bail you out if you get in trouble, and another one will come and resuscitate you. But they can die, like, really easily.
permanently?
Permanently.
That's a big deal.
And I had no idea. So I was playing it, and
this is a cool story.
I got ambushed. There was this like broken down village, and I was driving along in a truck. So it's all first person, and when you get into cars, it's first person vehicles as
Right.
well. And it's interesting because like you always have like a GPS system with you, and it always keeps it in your first person frame of view, like you're holding it, which is kind of interesting. So if you get the map out in the car, he like puts it on his lap, and you can just look down and look at the map.
That's cool. Everything's in game.
Everything is in game. So I was trundling along towards this mission, and these guys in a jeep ambushed me, hit the truck with an RPG, and I got thrown from the car, had hardly any life left, and got shot. And there's this sort of death throes first person animation, and then this guy came, dragged me to safety, like jabbed me, resuscitated me, and said, okay, I'm going to hold them down. You get to their truck and you go and continue what you were doing. So I'm like, all right, I'll go do that.
And that wasn't necessarily scripted. That is
it was because
you have a relationship with that guy.
And it's like, okay, so you clearly have everything under control. I'll go get in the car, and I went off and did the mission. And then later on, I meet up with this other friend, and I get to this friend management screen
And
that
it
I'd not
shows
really...
that
And he died.
Yeah.
And I was like...
you felt something for him.
I was like, okay. So, and then it sort of dawned on me that this guy, who could have been very useful to me, is gone, and I can't get him back.
That's what I was going to say. How did it affect you? Did you actually care that he was dead, or that you couldn't use him anymore?
Well, he gave his life for you.
I think we already knew the answer to that question.
But it was an interesting way of just saying, okay, this option is done.
Yeah.
You're done. And I hadn't fully appreciated that even was a possibility until it had happened.
When they save you, will they always get killed? Is it kind of like their way of doing like a continue?
Garnet asked me this earlier, and I really don't know. But I mean, from the way that the game describes these people, the assumption is that they will always be there to fulfill these specific jobs.
Right.
Because there are people that are your best friends, who are the people that will supplement. So you have basic mission objectives, and then there's supplementary objectives, and your best friend gives you the extra stuff. And I think that system can shift depending on who you're spending the most attention on. And I'm not far enough into it to have experienced all of this, but to see that, like, you get to this screen where you open up this book and there's like the people that you've met, and this guy just had a line through him, and it's like killed in action. I had no idea. I thought he was holding down the fort. I thought we were doing all right.
You sent him to die.
I like how you're so apologetic now. I thought he was okay. Dude, I thought you were all right.
He said he had everything under control. That was the understanding.
Are you writing the letter to his family now? I did not leave him there to die.
But I thought it was an interesting way. I mean, we've talked about consequence and stuff a lot, and I thought it was good that it didn't. It let him die, which a lot of games won't. And there's enough of these NPCs in the game that, you know, okay, well, now the function of that guy, you don't have to deal with it. You're going to have to go to the weapon shop now instead of him turning up with a gun or whatever it is. But it's a very grim game. Grim the way that Fallout 3 is grim, but in a real world environment.
Right.
Grim the way 24 got, actually.
Yeah.
You know, where you're very aware of being in this very oppressive, lawless, kind of dark Like, like everywhere, everything is out to get you.
They're recruiting children for armies.
I mean, it's just like and the storyline as it unfolds is just like, basically everything's fucked up. Just do this. Go kill this guy.
I have a copy in my bag right now. I'm going to take it home tonight and start playing it over Thanksgiving break.
But I was very surprised by how quickly it evolves into more of a role-playing type experience than it's not just a run and gun shit. It's very objective based. There's a lot of talking to people and sort of unraveling pass through the story. There's like a central, much like Fallout and Oblivion, there's a central story and then all these things branch off it.
I know I should play it. I'm very interested to play it.
If you like 24 Redemption, man, you're going to love this.
And it has a Half-Life 2 intro, which I've not seen anyone do for a while, where the whole
you're
thing...
in the car and he's
You're in the
driving.
car and the guy's talking to you, and you're seeing, as you're sort of moving from the airport towards where you get dropped off.
Well, hell, by the time I get it, no one's going to want to listen to anyone talk about it anymore.
But this is the fact that I've played
you could always play it to have fun.
Oh, I don't ever play
all beyond the first couple of hours, because I've only played a few hours of it.
All right. That was well done.
Red Bull down.
I think that's it.
That's it? Well, let's go.
Valkyrie Chronicles. I started playing.
Oh,
that.
that's my big one. You're going to steal my thunder.
No,
Well,
I'll let you talk about it. I started playing that, and it's strangely relaxing.
And I'm taking it home to play over Thanksgiving holiday. So obviously the forums are like, yes, we could bully them into doing it.
Gotta warn you, it's Operation Darkness.
It's beautiful. There's a lot of waiting. I found.
What do you mean? For the enemies to take their turn?
No, I mean, it's a very slow paced.
Well, there's a lot of the tutorials kind of continue as you play through the first few hours. Like I think once all those are over, then the pace.
I don't think I don't mean it as a bad thing. I just think that it's a very different pace for a game these days.
But I think for a Japanese tactical RPG, it's a much more interactive and fast-paced experience because you're actually running around on the battlefield. You're ostensibly dodging bullets. It's kind of canned, but
the last thing you want to do is to get lost in the environment when you only have a limited amount of time that you can move in because. There was one of the early ones where this guy said, "Oh, you got to run over there and go down this alleyway," and I'm like, "Okay."
Is that when the tank is coming?
Yeah, and I ran off. I'm like, "Where's the fucking alley?"
Especially if you leave your back turned and the enemy's ready there to shoot.
Yeah, and then suddenly it's like, "Oh, you can't move anymore. You're going to be standing right here, and we're all going to be shooting at you."
Yeah,
but I've been looking forward to this game for a long time. It's by the people who made Skies of Arcadia, which is one of my favorite games for Dreamcast, and. Yeah, I think it's really refreshing because I'm not a tactical war game kind of guy. I've tried to get into like the front missions or the Ring of Red, these Chase-Out style games, and this one because it has like an alternate reality, whimsical take on World War II, but yet it is still kind of grim and bleak. People get killed, like like the main girl's like flirting with the dude and giving him bread, but then people are getting shot around them, and they realize like, hey, this is war, this is serious business, and the tone is very interesting because it isn't super playful, but it is kind of pleasant and relaxing despite being about the horrors of war.
I thought it was, it's gorgeous.
I love the art style.
And the storytelling's neat. You're in the storybook and you kind of like read the different chapters and it's, very piecemeal and you can save wherever you want. I like that.
I put it on and I was like, I told my wife, "Oh, you got to see this." And I started playing it and she's like, "Oh, is this the game now?"
Yeah. It's the first game to come out with that art style. And some other games are in the pipeline that stole that same concept, basically. But yeah, it's very unique looking and beautiful.
From having played it when it was demoed, the thing that I'm most looking forward to is learning how to play the system, getting past the tutorial segment you're talking about, and then getting to play, larger scale maps where you actually are maneuvering through, several turns. I think the whole idea of having real-time movement combined with a turn-based combat system is really clever.
Yeah, like the battlefield can change. Like when you first meet that tank, it's like the first big thing, and it starts knocking all of your little safety cover points down. You're like, "What? You're destroying my cover points!" Like it's changing the battlefield around you, and and then I've heard that as the game progresses, the story gets even better and deeper and weirder and funnier. And
are you going to stick with it?
Oh, definitely. I've been waiting on this game.
So this is one we'll probably be back to at least once or twice.
I would think so, but yeah, I heard it isn't selling that well, and I would say it's
pretty niche. I think
it's pretty niche, but if you like tactical games, if you're ever someone who played Final Fantasy Tactics,
or even for that matter, there's a lot of Advance Wars about it.
That's true. Actually, it's the tone is a bit Advance Wars.
Yeah,
Advance Wars. Yeah, actually,
from like art style.
And I would say of the Japanese RPGs on PS3 currently, this is the one to get over Disgaea. I would think.
Oh, okay.
Disgaea's not a bad game, but this is much more next gen and interesting and refreshing. And, I'm enjoying it a lot.
Cool. Do you want to add anything else you've been tinkering with?
We skipped David Ellis.
Sure, we can do David.
go back to
Dave,
David.
you got anything new you've been playing that you want to get in here before we...
Any more Killzone 2?
Yeah, I was playing some more today. I was going to play SOCOM, but didn't have time to install the patches before we taped, so I just hopped in and played some more Killzone 2, and despite what I said last week, or what people think I said last week, I actually don't dislike the game.
What do you mean what they think you said? Well, you said what you said.
Well, no, the perception from the One Up Show segment, which was...
Where you said it's not worth playing, that part?
What specifically did you mean by that?
I said long term as a multiplayer shooter. I don't know that it's worth playing. What I meant by that is whether it's worth playing over games that are already out there. And no, I didn't do a good job of communicating myself, and I wouldn't
editing
lie
doesn't
and
always
say-
help.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different can of worms. And I think people that watch the One Up Show and then listen to One Up Yours, my tone is different because I've been playing the game from much more. The One Up Show segment, which just is a fact of the beast of the way timing when you have to shoot and edit and everything. I'd only been playing the beta for maybe 3 hours. And I'm probably about 6 or 7 hours in now, which is still not much. I want to play it some more, but the controls you do get used to them once you change it. And one of the things I did was I was playing it with the default controls, and I had the zoom button attached to the right stick, which was just kind of awkward when you're in close combat. And I switched it over to whether it's the
R2 or
I think it's L1.
L1.
So it basically
Resistance controls.
Yeah, basically copies resistance controls pretty well, and it works a lot better up there than being on the stick.
And the good thing is this is a beta, and they're looking for feedback exactly like this. So
yeah, I mean the beta's been going on. It was started as an internal private beta a couple months ago.
The
and
beta actually ends this week.
Yeah, it ends on Sunday. So I think most of the stuff they're going to change, they have changed by now. Mm-hmm. I think it definitely is different than most other shooters, and I'm not someone that plays a lot of tactical shooters. I played Rainbow Six, and I like those games okay, but generally my style of play skews more arcadey, and this is definitely not arcadey. It is a fast game. You do move around the levels fast, but once you stop, you have to make sure you're kind of in cover because you can't really take cover, but make sure you're positioned so that your body has some kind of cover between yourself and the person you're trying to shoot. Mm-hmm. I want to unlock more stuff. I mean,
so you got more accustomed to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely more accustomed to it. It still feels weird, but I'll keep playing it more. But mostly what I've been playing, honestly, is playing Peggle for Xbox Live Arcade.
Wait, Peggle?
Peggle, yeah.
Peggle.
How can you not love Peggle?
I love Peggle.
So I'm
just surprised that
you never played Peggle?
I had never even seen Peggle because I hate PopCap games. And
why do you hate PopCap games?
How do you hate PopCap games?
Really?
Because they are thieves. And when I saw the game, I realized, okay, it's Pachinko meets Bust a Move meets there's some other game.
The Price is Right game, Plinko.
But this one, I'd say of the
PopCap, and then you fell in love.
Of the PopCap games I've seen, this one at least combined different elements into something new and unique, and it did look kind of fun, and I did want to try it.
If I have to warn you though, once you do try it,
it's still crack.
But I find the trappings abhorrent and offensive, and I think they got Lisa Frank.
The unicorn stuff.
Seriously, if you want a man to play this game, you should probably put some new graphics on it. That's all I'm saying.
Dude, you're so wrong. I can't tell you the number of times I have burned out the battery on my iPod playing Peggle.
If I looked over and saw you looking at a smiling unicorn wearing a dress, I'd be like, "What is this?" I don't know. But it does look really fun. I do actually. I want to try it on DS. That's what I want to try it on.
But yeah, the DS one actually, it doesn't look nearly as good, but it's got all the physics.
Yeah.
And it's exact. But the cool thing with this XBLA version is that it includes stuff from the original Peggle and Peggle Knights in one package. And it also adds a 2-player duel mode where you alternate turns and whoever gets the most points wins.
Yep.
There's also a 4-player competitive mode as well where everyone's playing on the same map and you have a timer, so you only have 12 seconds to take your shot. But in that 12 seconds, you can aim up, but also they have small versions of the screens of everyone playing at the same time. You can zoom in and actually look at what they're doing from a strategy-wise to see where they're aiming their shots so that you can place yours in
playing the
different
same
ways.
board?
Playing the same board.
So that when they take pegs out, you lose them on your board?
No. You play the same board, but
it's a race.
It's basically a race.
Okay.
In the dual mode, you do play the same board, same pegs and everything. This 4-player one, you're playing the same board, board, but it's each person's playing their own version of that board.
Okay, gotcha.
So your shot doesn't affect anyone else's. And at the end of every shot, there's a scoreboard with a bar that tells you how you're doing. I was playing a match today where I was in last place with about 6 shots to go, and I made just an awesome shot, which is what Peggle's all about, where the lucky shot that just keeps bouncing around, and I got like 300,000 points.
Does it have all the challenges as well? Like the points challenges and the
as far as I know,
pegs?
it has all that stuff. I mean, and it has way more. Like I said, it combines levels from Peggle Knights and the original Peggle, so there's a lot of content in there. And I think for a lot of people in console that never played like the PC version, like I think a lot of people are going to get addicted to this game for a long time.
Everyone in my family is addicted to Peggle. For everyone from my 3-year-old up to my wife, like they're all like, there's something about. Because you don't really have to do very much.
What surprised me is how easy it looks. I mean, it's like hard to master, but in order to like be successful and like, you know, I thought when your ball fell to the bottom, you lose. No, you fall in like a pit that gives you 20,000 points. And okay, like it's very pleasant. There's lots of positive reinforcement happening.
Yeah,
and, it's not as scary as a lot of the.
But you do
it's
grow
a therapy game,
and you do grow like fond of one of the particular abilities. Like this, you know. And for some levels, like you want the dragon because it can, you know, the fireball takes stuff out. But there's others where, you know. In one level, you'll hate. Yeah, the multi-ball will be what you want, and
it's not like any of these concepts. Original High Arkanoid had all this. I mean, like again, PopCap just takes and correlates and makes something.
And the XBLA one is going to be cheaper than the because it's $20 if you buy it for the PC.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's another thing with PopCap is they tend to overcharge on the games because people buy them. I mean. They pay $20 for those games.
Well, that's the thing is people buy them for the price. So
yeah.
Well, you talk about value proposition. You get a lot of hours out of Peggle.
You do get a lot of hours out of Peggle.
And then I'm shocked how well the controls do translate to the controller. I mean, you can't move around, and a lot of people when they play Peggle, they like to use their mouse and actually point at specific.
I wonder if the DS version uses the paddle controller for Space Invaders and Arkanoid.
That would be an excellent use for it. But for the fine tuning that you would normally use the scroll wheel on the mouse for, you hold any of the trigger or bumpers and then move the stick and it adjusts it. There's very subtle movements, so they can still do that.
Do you have some kind of on-screen pointer?
I mean, you have the same one. You have the same one you have on the PC that like extends out all the way to.
No, but in terms of because like on the PC, you still have your mouse pointer as something to gauge things with.
You basically have an arrow that comes out of whatever you're shooting out of, and it extends all the way to what you're.
Oh, it goes all the way now.
I think it goes all the way.
It shows like the move style where things are going to ricochet.
I think that's what they did to.
You might be able to turn that off, but it made it look
right because in the PC one that was a special ability in that you would unlock when you hit the green things, it would give you that.
Right, and that's basically what they've done to make it easier to use on the console.
I figured that might go away after the first few levels, so that's the way it is in Bust a Move.
And some aiming assist.
Yeah. And when you're playing competitively, of course, everyone can select a different character that you've unlocked, so that you do have different abilities. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see.
You choose the unicorn with the flower, whatever the hell.
No, I use I guess these.
Oddly, the one that turns things into flowers is pretty powerful.
Yes, because it explodes everything around it when you hit it.
It always takes 20% of whatever's left. I know way too much about Peggle. It's just 20% of whatever's still on the screen turns into flowers and disappears. So if you get the green peg at the beginning, you can wipe out a huge chunk of what you need to be doing.
And I've actually. This is how sad I am. I've actually watched YouTube videos for Peggle strategies.
No,
I'm not kidding. And there's one level on the original Peggle, which basically the string that you're trying to take out, it looks like DNA spinning. And a guy figured out how to take out every one of them with one shot. And he won, like, there was some contest they were running so you get the high score on that level. And he figured out how to take it, I don't know if it was one shot, but he was able to take out the whole string in, like, one shot where it just fell down and just took out every single peg on the way down. Love Peggle.
I can tell.
Digital crack.
Very addictive.
Seriously.
I agree. It is really addictive. But I'll be interested to see whether I like it on Xbox Live because I think part of the reason I like it is on my iPod I can like put on other music, zone out.
You can do that on your Xbox though. Custom soundtracks.
That's true.
Too bad you can't have custom graphic tracks.
See, I think the really cheesy graphics and incredibly cheesy dialogue is like it plays into the game. It adds to like the fanciful nature of it. It's silly. It's ridiculous, but it's fun.
You don't like the rainbows when you win?
It just
you don't like
really looks like
the Hallelujah chorus.
I don't know if you know who Lisa Frank is, but Google her and Google image search Lisa Frank, and you'll see the Peggle art right there.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which reminds me, by the way, for you guys having been making fun of my my Zune home player and having Zune on my laptop at home, it makes it really easy to stream into the new 360 front end as well.
Yeah, they actually recommend you use the Zune over like Windows Media Player at this point.
I could see why, because now, I mean, I don't remember how it used to be, but I was interested to try it out day before yesterday, and I pulled it up, and I mean, it's basically like having the interface for Zune right there on your front end. You like, do you want to choose by album?
You do a lot of Zune sharing?
No.
Welcome to the social.
Nope, not at all.
Welcome to the antisocial.
No, but I have like a bunch of music on my laptop, and that has a Zune software on it, and it's super easy to like pull that into the front end and play it. And you pull up the visualizer, which of course we all like the visualizer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's pretty easy. I'm surprised also, speaking of the new Xbox
That they didn't update that?
What?
The visualizer?
No, I'm not. I was going to say I'm surprised at how much every night there are a handful of people Netflix streaming. Like Netflix streaming is, at least anecdotally, is hugely popular.
But I mean, that shouldn't surprise anyone. I mean, so many people already subscribe to Netflix. It's just added, added benefit.
We don't, but I put it on, and it kind of. I mean, my wife was like, "Oh, Netflix. Yeah, maybe we should do that again."
I mean,
it's very effective the way that it's placed and.
You say it shouldn't surprise you, but I mean, I think that the raw number, especially considering that the library is not that expansive, and everybody's had Netflix, so you kind of anticipate that people will have had their 2 or 3 Blu-rays or DVDs at home on a regular basis they wanted. But I mean, I think there are a lot of people doing like what I'm doing, which is using it as a way to catch up on their television watching.
It's perfect for that, but there's also a lot of really good documentaries on there. I'm watching one about Hunter S. Thompson right now that Starz did, which is really interesting. They have interviews with like Johnny Depp and Sean Penn and a lot of people, and it's got footage that I've never seen before, and I didn't even know it existed until I was just floating through, and Netflix said, "You watch this, you might like this," and I think that's what Netflix works so well on Netflix is their recommendations.
Do we have any more what you've been playing stuff?
I'm still playing Little Big Planet, despite the reports that no one's playing it. Giant bomb. The desperate attempts to construe it as a failure.
Little Big Bomb.
Amuse, but no, it's great, and I'm still enjoying the single player and the multiplayer.
Do you think that, like we say that jokingly, do you think there's actually people trying to convey it as a failure now?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Why? Like Xbox?
I think whoever in general, like anything that's like hyped that's hyped so big. There's a lot of people in this world just like to tear things down.
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like Little Big Planet mirrors.
You mean like 24?
No.
I wouldn't even say it's hyped big anymore.
24's ratings were fine, actually. But like a game like Mirror's Edge or The Little Big Planet, like, it's been out for a few weeks, and, there's some anecdotal evidence of what these things are selling, but we don't really know yet. Like Black Friday is today, and a lot of games are still being bought, and it seems like this industry wants people to fail. They want these games to fail, and I enjoy watching failures.
I think both of them don't.
No,
I
think they're both going to succeed, and I think that they're both critical successes, obviously, and they're both good
How
games.
much do you suppose Little Big Planet costs to produce compared to your normal?
It's so hard to say. I mean, it's a small team, but the amount of marketing and research, and there's no way of knowing.
Right.
And time spent on it. I mean, they were working on it for a fairly long amount of time.
Right.
But especially even more creative. There was one I saw today where someone was taking Kandinsky paintings and turning them into Little Big Planet and trying to like go further than just the cosmetic, but trying to, he was doing custom soundtracks and stuff that he was building, trying to evoke like the spirit of the painting through like really treating it as an art project. And like there's some people that are really cool, that are putting a lot of like way deeper effort than just I'm going to make a cool level.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the detractors from Little Big Planet, all they want to do is harp on like the floaty controls or this isn't the best platform or ever, and just overlooking what's actually new, creative, and exciting about this game.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the official thread that's over on if you go look at like the Gaming Age thread on it, that's like comes up over and over and over about how it's not that great of a 2D platformer. It's like people just
so what. But today,
I kind of think that's,
you can get a turkey head for your sack boy,
and you can get the Chimera like eating his face. That costs money. The turkey head's free, and
which is like a Joey from Friends with wearing the turkey on his head.
Yeah, there's been a free costume every week, and I've gotten all those. And I bought there's a 5-pack of animals, and they're pretty great. There's like a
it's funny because actually
free frog.
Like, I think the day the show went out, where we were bemoaning the lack of free costumes,
that's when they started hitting.
That was when they started. Yeah,
there's a Loco Roco 5-pack came out the other day as well for costumes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 5 different Loco Roco.
You didn't buy that one, did you?
No,
I'm
being selective with what I buy.
Sack boys, though, right?
That's what it looked like.
No, they're not that great. But the ones that are really good, I am buying. But I'm excited for the free one every week. That's
Have they released the astronaut one here in the U.S.?
Yeah, that was the first free one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have they started doing different like furniture and furnishings for the levels yet, as far as DLC?
No objects or materials yet. Just DLC. Just Sackboy.
That's got to be a
clothes.
bigger task. I mean, I could see where
Well, I mean, you can make and share whatever you want in the game. So there's an infinite number of objects.
because you can make a shape or.
I don't think they're going to be selling individual objects. I think they're going to be selling sets. I mean, that's like kind of what we've been hearing. Like the rumor is like there's going to be like for example, a Killzone set or a Final Fantasy VII set, and in that set you get lots of backgrounds, items, materials, outfits, music.
And a God of War set would make sense.
Yeah, I think there are many sets coming.
That's the thing with all the DLC possibilities with this game. Maybe they don't have to sell that many copies to break even and even make money on it.
Well, and like the idea that it's a failure. I was just playing earlier, and like I was number 175,000 on some level score. Like there are people playing this game.
There are a lot of people playing this game.
And it's obviously selling more than just here in the U.S.
Right.
Oh yeah, in Europe they're eating out.
Yeah, and there's bundles too, and like every time I go to Best Buy, it's sold out. So all the haters out there who want to pretend like Little Big Planet's a flop,
I have never seen it on a shelf.
So
I've never been to a store that has it in
keep
stock.
trying, haters. go put yourself in the movies, have fun.
Oh, you're in the
Grasping
movies?
for
Have you
straws.
tried it?
You tried it?
Yeah.
I actually want to try it when I'm drunk. Do you have it?
It's a lot like the early iToy game,
Where you're just like messing around, having fun.
except with with a bit more structure to what you're doing.
But you get to save the movies you make, and then that's kind of fun.
and it spits out to a few services. I believe.
WMV.
Yeah.
Spit out.
It's something I would really mess around with, not buy though. Probably.
Right.
It's as like a full price game.
Oh, I also got
Go ahead.
for the weekend Street Fighter 2 HD remake. It's going to be out any minute now.
It's out.
By the time this show is
it's out. It's out.
It wasn't out. It wasn't out.
Literally 5 minutes before we came
Really?
in here.
All right,
Yeah.
because I just checked.
Yeah.
That and SingStar ABBA.
It's true.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a copy of that
Oh
today.
yeah. ABBA's amazing.
Are you a dancing queen?
SOS is my favorite song.
We keep coming back to that pricing question, and I pulled a couple of stories real quickly to like go over that I thought were interesting from the early part of this week. One of them was an interview with Nathan Fouts, who did the one Xbox Community game that you liked.
Which one?
Remember that?
Weapon of
The
Choice?
Weapon.
Oh, that
right.
game's rad.
Okay, so
I played that Artoon game recently.
Yeah,
the one with the weird art with the bouncing ball jumping on the blocks.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine tell me that I needed to try that one out.
What's it called?
It's called Artoon.
Yeah, it's got a weird name.
Not Jellycar? No.
No, not Jellycar.
But it's like a ball bouncing, and you have to hop on these blocks in a certain amount of time, and every single level uses a very, very different art style.
I don't think I saw that at that event.
It wasn't at
wasn't there.
It's one of the new ones.
But it's up now?
They have tons of community
And
games
it's
that
cheap.
hit on November 19th.
It's one of the half-price ones.
Oh, I need to play a bunch of those this weekend. We can talk about them.
I think we should actually jump on some of those community games because it's really interesting to check them out. Interestingly enough, MTV Multiplayer interviewed Fouts, and he said, "I want to go on record and say that I feel that most downloadable games are underpriced." I think that this really is going to fly in the face of a lot of people's perceptions.
That's
because
a daring statement.
It is, isn't it? He says paying only 800 Microsoft points, which is about $10 for a game,
exactly $10
for a game as nice as Bionic Commando Rearmed, or 1,200 points, which is $15 for a game as big as Castle Crashers, seems ridiculous to me.
I think we're going to see a lot of tension in this, but because I've been talking to some guys that have been trying to get funded on like iPhone apps and lots of different download services, and I think the pressure from the investors is that charging $10 for something there's definitely a barrier there, and that the real magic is $2.99 for an app, whether it's an iPhone app or a downloadable game on a console or a handheld. And I think we're going to see some pressure in both directions, and big epic, sort of more epic downloadable experience that pushing into the $15 zone. But does that mean that the little puzzle thing should be $3?
Well, the thing that's interesting to me is just to see, Xbox Live Arcade, how it's evolved from the beginning. It was all under 15 megabytes, very small games, very small experiences, and now to see it.
But do we know what the
space.
best-selling titles are in Xbox Live Arcade? Do we know that? Because I've heard that like the best-selling titles on PSN are like Mortal Kombat 2, which is $5. That little weird puzzle game that's like $3. Like the really cheap games are the ones that.
Well, this is
sell
what
in mass.
the investment community is like: sell 1 million of something at $3 instead of 100,000 of something at $10.
Yeah. Well, I think the pricing for the GTA 4 expansion, that'll be a big litmus test as to how much are people willing to pay for something online.
I think that's going to be shockingly expensive.
I think 30.
I think 30.
I think $19.99.
Really?
Yeah.
Unless it's got like a corporate subsidization, like GTA expansion brought to you by
Microsoft.
Axe body spray.
Axe body spray would be kind of awesome.
It would be great if he had to use Axe body spray as a weapon. Maybe with a lighter.
Didn't Axe sponsor Rainbow Six Vegas?
One of those.
Yeah, something
first
like
one.
that.
It might have been
yeah.
Tag.
It was one of those and Dodge because every vehicle was a Dodge.
Oh, yeah. Not a Dodge. The little Dodge. What's it called?
Yeah.
Didn't help him dodge.
No.
Also on the DLC front, a couple of big announcements. Well, one much larger than the other, I think, because I think the consensus around here was that Fallout 3 was bigger than Fable 2. So Fallout 3 and Fable 2 both had announcements.
Fable 2 sold 1.5 million copies.
I know. So I was just saying for you guys, because of Fallout 3, especially like John and Dave, both you guys were really into that. So anyway, Fallout 3, Bethesda announced that the Garden of Eden creation kit will be out in December. That's the build your own content for the game.
Is that for PC only?
That's for PC, and then DLC was announced for January to start out the rollout of 3 DLC packs, and again 360 and PC, but no PS3.
Well, that was an exclusive.
Yeah,
they announced that exclusivity to DLC 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
It's also a technical issue, too.
3 DLC pieces are Operation Anchorage, where you get to... It sounds bizarre.
Is Sarah Palin involved?
You have to shoot moose out of a helicopter.
It's the liberation of Anchorage, Alaska from its Chinese communist invaders.
You can see them. You get out your back porch.
Sarah Palin better be in that.
She saw them.
That's all I'm saying.
She saw them coming.
Sarah Palin cameo.
Like a cyborg Sarah
awesome.
cyborg Sarah Palin.
7 of 9 Sarah Palin.
Hot.
The one for February is going to be called The Pit. No word of whether to include Brad or something else. And then in March will be Broken Steel, where you get to join the ranks of the Brotherhood.
So
I won that one.
So note to Fallout 3 owners: don't trade your copy in.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So,
I mean, anyone that's played, as soon as you see the Brotherhood, you're like, I want that armor, I want that gun.
Well, the first thing I did is I let one of my friends die so I could steal their armor. And
You can't wear it, it's too heavy.
Nope, too heavy.
So something else on DLC that is going to be on PS3 is, and this is really significant, because even though it's only one car, the Hot Rod that comes out in February for Burnout Paradise also comes packed with a completely new physics engine for all the driving.
what?
Huh?
What?
So the Hot, I don't know if you saw it.
I saw a picture of it.
Yeah.
It's called the Carson Hot Rod or something. So you download this car. It's the fastest car in the world, but as part of the pack, they've completely changed the driving model and the physics system for the game.
To make it more realistic, though, or something?
To accommodate how fast this car is.
Well, that's how I felt about the bikes. I thought the motorcycles went too fast, and I had trouble steering them.
So they've overhauled everything, and it has a new level of boost. So there's a new boost system in the game that's now like purple flames or something that come out of the back of the car.
That's awesome.
But it's a differently structured, because each of the different mod, there's the stunt model,
Speed boost,
yeah. So there's a new boosting model, but a new handling model to go with this car.
Wow.
So not only are they overhauling it for content, they're now reinventing the guts of the thing as well.
Is this after the Flying DeLoreans or before?
It's the one after.
Yeah.
So they're rolling them out as what they will be rolled out in terms of subsequent downloads. So the DeLorean, and then actually it's Friday. So there'll be an announcement today. I think it's the last one they're announcing today.
I think Criterion has really pushed the envelope and set the bar of like how long and how far you can go in support of a game.
I think
how far you can take it.
you have to compare what Rockstar's going to do with GTA to what Criterion's done with Burnout, because it's like, well, we've given you the world, and now we're just going to keep doing things to it.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is kind of an odd comparison, but if you'll think about it, it's sort of along the lines of what Gabe Newell originally visioned for Source, the code base for Source, in that instead of building a new game engine every cycle, you could just continue to add content to it. Different approach, though. Criterion so far has been
we've given you this big world.
They've been giving you this stuff for free.
Well, it sounds like Fallout's the same. It's like not only are we going to do different things in the existing world, but we're going to add different locations as well. Like there's, Fallout 3 is entirely contained in the DC area, and if they're throwing in Alaska as a level now, then
outside of the old Unreal games, who else has ever done so much content for free? It always has been, at least in the recent economy.
Yeah. Honestly, what I'm looking
for
forward to even more is like the mod tools on PC, because the mods that were on Oblivion for PC
were great,
just ridiculous.
So Fable 2 also getting $10 worth of premium content, and that is a new island where you'll have new quests, wondrous items, and bizarre characters. But there'll also be some free stuff, including knight's boots, assassin's gloves, and a special weight loss potion.
Speaking of DLC, I saw a bunch of Dead Space DLC went up today, and it's all like weapons and.
Oh, there's a ridiculous amount of DLC.
It's pretty expensive. Like to get these weapon packs, are like $8, and another one.
They've released
much like Need for Speed last week. It's like
EA doesn't quite have the hang of the whole micropayment thing, because they're not so micro.
They're not so micro, and they're a lot more in your face with the whole monetization of it. When you're going to buy upgrades for your car, and it asks you whether you want to buy it with in-game cash or would you like to spend real money,
right? And it didn't look like any of this. Much like Need for Speed, it's not like additional content. It's the content content, you're too lazy to actually get in the game.
One of the things we should point out with the Fable content is you'll be able to play co-op with someone who's bought the pack, even though you haven't. So you can experience that content.
I don't know. Actually, I just really looked at this really quickly.
I believe that's what I read.
Oh, wow. How's he?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically the way Crackdown
it says, unfortunately, if another player wants to join you for some quests in Knothole, they too will need to download the premium content.
Weird. I thought I read just the opposite.
There's your
That
upsell.
sucks. Yeah, because in Crackdown you could do that when they released all the packs. If you were playing with someone else who had it, you could experience all that stuff.
You will become a part of the Fable 2 marketing machine. Because if you invite me to join, and first thing it'll tell me through the new Xbox experience is, hey, he's playing with this pack. If you want to play with him, you got to do this.
Yeah. Doesn't he look awesome in that island? Don't you want to join him? Give us $10.
All right, stick around for a couple of minutes, or actually about however long I usually do a break for. We'll be right back. And when we do, we'll have the holiday special. If you're out shopping or whatever, you can get you in the holiday mood. We'll tell a bunch of Christmas stories from the forums. Some of them are really interesting. Some of them are very devious. We have a lot of people who were opening presents late at night, and a lot of parents. John, did you? My parents never did this. You're a parent. Are you going to hide presents from your kids and have these
Oh
crazy
yeah, we always do that.
surprise thing on them? It's amazing the lengths some people have gone to surprise. Oh, you're not getting this, and then you find out after everything's all done. Oh, look, here it is. Anyway, stick around. We'll be back with some of those stories. All right, everybody, let's get into the holiday spirit. Hope you are out having a good time, or if you're at home, hope you're playing some games and relaxing and had a great Thanksgiving.
Well, it's funny. The stuff you were saying just before the break about people breaking open their games and playing them. I mean, I think I already told the story 10 times, so I'll tell the shortened version. But I did that all the time, especially when the advent of NES games. I could always tell when it was an NES game, it looked like an NES game. My mom
had the box size.
So my mom she'd wrap all the presents and hide them somewhere in the house, and you'd find them, and you'd find the games, and you would open it with a razor blade or a knife, carefully remove the game. And I still remember to this day, I beat Life Force, the amazing shooter. Beat it. Put it back in the box, went into the Christmas tree.
All before, dude. There's so
she
many.
Had no idea.
There's I didn't. Of course, only did a couple of samples, but there are so many retellings of that exact story.
It's very common.
It's really, really
very,
funny.
Very.
And then people are all I had an Oscar-winning performance, acting like I was surprised when I opened my game. Holy cow!
Yeah, I remember one year I opened it up and I was getting the Genesis game Decapitac, which isn't a bad game, but I'd rented it and I wasn't one of the games I really wanted. And I realized I'd put it on my Christmas list and months ago, and I then resented it. So then. The day after Christmas, I exchanged it for Madden 92.
Generally, my parents were really good about buying us games that we were interested in. But one year, I guess they just got really busy and didn't bother to listen to us when we circled stuff in the Sears Wish book. And I got Home Alone for the NES.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh dear.
That's the only my birthday's in November, so I got one game on my birthday, and then I get one game in Christmas. Those are only two games I got all year. So I wasn't getting another game until November of the next year.
Wow.
And I think it was $70. Home Alone.
Wow.
For NES.
Do you hate Macaulay Culkin?
I hate him. Fucking douche.
Wow.
What sparked this for me is that I was reminiscing a couple of weeks ago about holiday times, and for me, one of the big parts of Christmas time, or of Thanksgiving specifically, or getting into the Christmas season, was having that Thanksgiving weekend, sitting around with my stepdad and my little brother, playing Madden. We'd always play Madden. We always played on the Genesis. We were super into it, and Suzanne I was telling her about that, and she's reminding me of the funniest part of it, which was me and my stepdad, when we'd play, we'd be super intense, leaned over,
real competition,
real competition, whatever. And Andrew, who's my little brother, would get into it, but he's a controller flyer, and she's you know what I'm talking about, by controller flyer, right?
Yeah.
No, like when he's playing, he's moving the controller. He's one of those dudes.
He's a Wii user.
He's a Wii user,
yeah.
right? Because he's it's so funny because he'd be
I understand in a driving game, but in Madden,
he'd be
steering.
Especially if he's doing a running play, he'd be all jerking back and forth.
Did he identify with Bo Bridges' character from The Wizard?
Yeah.
Because he did that when he was playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with the controller and flicking around. You've never seen The Wizard?
You're very correct.
Yes.
He's
in
Zelda 2. He's in Zelda 2.
Yes.
Bo Bridges is fighting the boss of these six.
Yeah, he's holding the controller over his head, upside down. He's oh god, he's gonna stab me.
Good shit.
That is absolutely Andrew when he's playing football. It's really awesome. He'd be all driving it, driving the controller left, right. He'd be juking and moving, and he's anyway, yeah. So it's fun. Anyway. All right, let's get this thing kicked off. Counselor, school kick us off, says, last Christmas I brought Rock Band over to a parent's house on Christmas Day. I get everything all set up, and my dad says, I want to try the drums. What songs are there? Oh, Mississippi Queen. Let's play that one. Well, he starts going nuts on the drums and fails out right away. He keeps trying, but keeps failing. At one point, he tried so hard on a drum fill that he nearly fell off the couch. He also refused to play any song but Mississippi Queen until he finished. Eventually, after 2 straight hours of Mississippi Queen, he passed it and then told me to disconnect the 360 and never let him near it again.
I think his dad sounds awesome.
I know it is.
That's a great story. The only game I ever got my dad to play was Duck Hunt. He did like it, and he was pretty good at it, but no interest besides that.
Wow.
Can you just see it like, let's sit down. Oh, Mississippi Queen. Yeah. You imagine like 2 hours later, you're like, fucking Mississippi Queen, get this off.
Could have been worse. Could have been Wii music and like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
It could have been.
Oh, God. I'm having horrible
flashbacks.
Flashbacks to that weekend.
After giving me hell for my poorly constructed sentences, Crayman chimed in with this one, which is pretty good. He says, when I was 11, my uncle asked me, what do you want for Christmas? Is there any video games that you want? I told him we didn't own a video game system, to which he replied, you're a kid and you don't own a video system? All your classmates own one, right? To which I said yes, and he replied, we might have to do something about that. So flash forward a few days to Christmas. When he visits to give us our Christmas presents, I open up my present, and it's Super Star Wars for the SNES. Then he says to me, well, pop it in and show me how to play it. And I say, well, I don't have an SNES. He says, well, when I asked you if you owned one, you said yes. At this point, apparently, I'm almost in tears and reply, I told you I don't. So you don't like my present then, he says? And I reply, I don't have anything to play it on. Finally, he says, well, let me see what I have in the trunk of my car. So he goes out to the trunk of his car, comes back with his SNES unwrapped, and I can see him slowly coming into the house through the window. Apparently, the look of joy on my face was priceless.
I gotta say, in the last 17 years of my life, I have never heard a single person in this entire world say SNES ever, and you said it 3 times.
What
SNES?
Yeah, it was either
SNES, really?
I always called it SNES. And
SNES or Super Nintendo or Super SNES. But SNES?
SNES?
No one says SNES,
Super
dude. Nobody.
That's all right, fine. Whatever.
Don't ever say that again.
Okay, I will never say. I promise I will
Guys,
never
let's
say
get back in the spirit of the holiday season.
I think we're right. We're already dysfunctional. We're in the spirit.
But it's funny.
I've
heard variations on that same great ruse that the dad pulled.
Yeah, it was amazing to me how many people went through these ruses to get kids upset, to the point of crying on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, look, I got it for you."
A similar story happened to one of my cousins, but it was an NES game, and he wanted the NES. And unfortunately, the grandmother, or my cousin's grandmother on the other side, or whatever, she accidentally bought an Atari 7800 instead of NES.
That's not what you want.
You really didn't have anything to play on.
Christmas is ruined. You open up, you're like 7800.
I love this story here from Laverne and Shirley's favorite Hassenpfeffer.
Incorporated.
Yeah, it's some of my favorite memories date back to the Nintendo 64 and the great WWF wrestling game. I'm assuming he's talking about WCW World Tour or WrestleMania 2000. He's like, now wrestling games were not my favorite genre, but I loved fighting games and still do. It had such a robust character creation mode that Thanksgiving and Christmas, Pope John Paul II wiped the mat with my brother's creations. He was the dirtiest fighter, but I remembered him submitting quickly if he was made to bleed. This Thanksgiving, the Pope will be resurrected with Soul Calibur 4, replete with full papal garb and staff, wiping my brother's heathen asses once again.
That's awesome. It's like a family tradition. You know?
Yeah.
Bringing home the Pope to the fighting arena.
Love that.
That's a pretty awesome holiday one.
I've got a warm and fuzzy one here. It's kind of disgusting. Master Gamer 343 says, my favorite memory has to be the day we got the Wii. I really had bought into the hype and really wanted to get my hands on the controller and see what the machine could do. After we opened up all the presents, she, I guess my mom, had me go and get another one and open it in front of everyone. It turned out to be a Wii, which my mom had more or less fought someone for at Walmart. After I opened it up, I set it up right away. That evening, my entire family sat down and played video games together. Hell, even my mom played. This is significant because my mom is not the biggest fan of video games. That was when I understood the magic and the appeal of the Wii. Anything to get my mom to play a video game is considered a win in my book.
You know what? The same exact thing happened at Thanksgiving 2 years ago.
With your family?
Yes. My parents to this day love
Wii Sports.
Yep.
That really is why it works. It's interesting because it's not totally unique to the Wii, though, because Snafu has a story that's very similar. It says, I could go right back to Pong, but the really, and I mean real moment was when I bought Tomb Raider on the PS1 right before going home from college for Christmas. Friends and family alike were seated around the television in a semicircle, not wanting to play, but simply watch me play it.
Tomb Raider was like that. I know a lot of people that had people that just wanted to watch it. And it was actually Tomb Raider 1 was a good one because the puzzles were so they were pretty grand in terms of scale. So it was kind of a good game. We'll try, a lot of pointing and telling people to try things.
Well, that's good because, part of it was that it wasn't so much just, it had all that exploration and puzzle solving bit to it. So it wasn't just, wasn't just fighting. It wasn't just you manipulating the controls to win.
Plus, no one had ever seen a game like that in 3D like that before.
So he says, finished cheering and jeering during fights with mobs and making crazy jumps as well as trying to help figure out the puzzles. It was the first time I had had people in my life that were definitely non-gamers completely absorbed with the game I was playing.
Yeah. There's one here from 1989.
Wow.
That was a good Christmas.
It was a good year.
It snowed in North Carolina.
It was
a big deal.
Very good year.
It's from Zav. The only item on my holiday wish list was the Game Boy. He said he'd been circling it in advertisements, mixing it back in with my father's newspaper, and even claiming that it would make me a more dedicated student.
Of course it will.
That's a good argument.
He said that the anticipation was killing him, and on Christmas Eve, he saw a Game Boy-sized box under the tree. Knowing the exact specifications of the retail packaging, I spotted a carefully hidden present at the back of the tree. Opening it with the precision of a bomb squad commander, I removed the This is you.
I removed
the packaging and saw my Holy Grail, a Game Boy to call my own. I played it for hours sitting under that tree until the noise upstairs startled me. I placed it back into its packaging and waited the few short hours until we opened our presents for real, as we traditionally did at midnight. After giving an Oscar-caliber performance of surprise, I went to pull the unit out of the box. My smile quickly turned to fear as I realized I forgot to turn the system off during my Mission Impossible-esque mission with the unit hours before. My parents saw it was turned on and quickly realized what I had done. I wasn't able to play with the system for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, that is a tragic turn of events.
I have a Pokemon-related story
Holiday
here.
tragedies.
This one's from Jonathan0321. The holiday memory that sticks out in my mind is from our family's annual Christmas gathering the year Pokemon was released.
Oh, this one's awesome.
Yes.
This is fucking awesome.
I still remember getting a Game Boy with Pokemon Red and looking forward to my cousin coming later in the day with his Game Boy and a copy of Pokemon Blue. Throughout our time together, the two of us had our Game Boys on for pretty much the entire time, until everyone was asked to gather around as my grandfather retold the Christmas story. We understood that to be respectful, we had to turn off our new games. At the end of the story, my grandfather started a prayer, which lasted long enough for my cousin to get impatient. He turned on his Game Boy in the middle of the prayer, not bothering to turn the sound off. I still remember looking up after hearing the ba-bing Game Boy startup sound to see my entire family with their heads still bowed but glancing over to figure out what the noise was. It became pretty obvious to everyone when the Pokemon fanfare started coming out of the Game Boy, slowly fading as my cousin turned down the volume and casually continued to play the game.
Wow.
I choose you.
Oh, that's nice. I love these stories. I have one. So this one's from Green Noodles. It says, I have two that stick in my head. The first was the Christmas morning of 1989, also 1989. My brother had an Atari 2600, and I had been brought up on it from the time I understood what video games were. I was 6 now.
That 2600 was really old name in 1989, by the way.
It was.
That's what he's brought up on, though. He was a kid.
Right.
I was 6 now, and a friend down the street had an NES. Is that okay? Is it okay to call it NES?
Right.
Because it blew me away so much that it was the only thing I put on my Christmas list. I remember putting letters in my mailbox every day reminding Santa what to bring me. The day came. There were tons of presents. I went through them all like a tornado, not spending any time with them, hoping the next would be the NES. To show you how much I wanted it, I got one of those cool fishing games where the mouths on the fish open and closed, and that didn't even stop me. And he says those things kicked ass, by the way.
Those little motorized circular ones? Yeah, I remember.
Those were like magnets.
Those were pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess he's right. Anyway, after about a half hour, I looked around and saw there were no more presents. I was very disappointed, but did not cry because my parents taught me to be thankful for what I got. My mom hugged me, knowing I was upset, and told me to go clean myself up because we had to go to my grandmother's house. I went in the bathroom and went to the bathtub to grab a washcloth. I opened the shower curtain, and lo and behold, a brand new NES in the bathtub.
That's a good fake out.
I started screaming and running around the house. I grabbed my dad and told him to look in the bathroom. He did, and came back out with a huge smile and said, "Wow, I guess Santa had to take a dump."
God, that sounds like something my dad would say.
Wow.
Seriously.
ZH666, my grandparents bought me Krusty's Funhouse for the NES for Christmas. They hid it in their attic and forgot to give it to me. 10 years later, as they're cleaning house, they found my missing present. I can't think of anything cooler than getting a shrink-wrapped NES game for Christmas in 2003.
That's cool.
That's far out. That's actually really cool.
This one's pretty good here, and I'm gonna skip over some of it because it's really long. But it's from Lime Togonist. He's like, back when I was a wide-eyed youth with a pocket full of rings, I came
actually, you actually have to do the whole story because the intro part of this story is significant to the stinger.
Okay. I came down to our Christmas chair. We couldn't afford a tree that year and began to open my presents. This was it. This was going to be a video game Christmas. Topping all of the preceding years, I just knew it because I saw a huge stack of presents with my name on them. So I opened the first one, then the second, then another and another until I was swimming in wrapping paper scraps. But it wasn't there. The big item that I wanted more than anything else that year. So I looked at my mom and dad and asked where it was. I didn't care as much about the new rollerblades or books or any of the other gifts. Not that I wasn't happy for them, but who wants fresh air and literature when there are video games to be played? I was, for lack of a better word, pwned. Well, my mom walked over to me and placed a hand on my shoulder and said, Lime Tanagatus? Real name omitted for security reasons. I went to a few stores and they weren't carrying it, so I went to the big mall and they didn't have it. So I ended up going to Funko Land. Yeah, this is way back in the day. And the clerk told me, ma'am, don't get him that for Christmas. The Sega 32X sucks. Then she told me to just be patient and to look to my birthday. Well, long story short, that January, my mom bought me a Nintendo 64 with Super Mario 64. Thank you, anonymous Funko Land clerk. Thank you for saving my Christmas by stealing it.
All right, I got what going here. Jesse Dillon says, I was off to college and all, and I came home for Christmas vacation. I think this was Christmas 2005. I'm not entirely sure. I had Dragon Quest VIII, which I had walked 10 miles to buy on launch day since I had no car. I hadn't had much time to play it yet, so when I was finally done with that semester back at home, that's basically what I did all vacation, locked in my dark old bedroom. I hadn't even washed myself or eaten, I should say. That's not the story, really, more of the background, but I can't underscore how much I really love playing this game.
He's going to underscore it. He's going to underscore it.
To his story, per se, if there is one, there was this younger girl who was crazy about me at the time and had been waiting and waiting for me to come home from college, calling me incessantly, trying to find ways to come over and visit me, and pining away in general. Once I was home on vacation, she'd constantly come over and try to get intimate with me, and I ignored the poor thing because all I wanted to do was play Dragon Quest, and I hadn't showered in some time. Looking back, I can see how cruel I was to her. Not to mention the amount of love I passed up for Dragon Quest. For Dragon Quest! Is Dragon Quest better than sex? I guess so. Sorry, Valerie. I honestly think she's still bitter about it, too. At least we weren't dating or in any kind of long-term relationship. What a strange time in my life that was. Barring all that, I still have very fond memories of the Dragon Quest.
What an awesome holiday story.
It's very touching.
Rank dude getting felt up by a girl while playing Dragon Quest.
And you'd be like, awesome.
No, I do not want you to do that.
Gotta fight a slime.
You're distracting me.
That's the wrong way to level up.
Oh, I love that story.
That's a good one.
I thought that was really awesomely funny.
Sorry, Valerie.
Poor Val.
Oh.
Next. How do you follow that one?
I
don't know.
That is a tough one to follow.
This one's a sweet one. The Christmas I got my NES, my dad and I sat down after we got back from dinner and played Gauntlet for 5 or 6 hours straight, yelling at each other if one of us shot a potion or took all the meat or let death catches in a corner. The only reason we stopped was because the game froze because the NES was so hot. I didn't even really realize how late it was till then. It's just one of those things I'll always remember. And that's the best thing about games at this time of year is that connections with people and things that you would do that you wouldn't do at any other time of year. And I think there's a lot of NES stories.
There are a lot of NES stories around that.
Of people doing that, playing stuff together. And because a lot of people, I think, how often do you play a game with your dad, really?
Yeah.
Never. I mean, a whole other set of circumstances, but I mean, it's interesting all the different relationships that form around games, and I think that also the thing we were talking about earlier is how well Nintendo owned a generation of the holiday. I mean, the NES, Super Nintendo. And then 64.
Well, yeah,
they completely.
Several of us were at retail during N64, and if we were going to tell the other side of holiday stories, I mean, I remember when we got 100 N64s on Christmas Eve that first Christmas, and how insane that was, and seeing dreams dying and being born. People got these.
I worked at GameStop during the Xbox 360 launch, which was horrific.
It was nothing like N64.
Well,
trust me, dude.
He's right. He's right. It was nothing like that.
N64 was terrible.
What I mean is that we had GameStop corporate had told us to sell as many pre-orders on 360 as we possibly could. We would get more than enough systems. It wouldn't be a problem. And when we got our allocation, we had something at my store, which is a pretty small store. We had like 300 pre-orders for 360. They sent us 4 systems.
Wow.
Sweet.
And we did not fill those 300 systems until like March of the next year. And I was one tasked to having to call these people and tell them, you're not going to get a system for Christmas.
Dude, PS2 was a fiasco like that. PS2 was an utter fiasco. Remember,
But N64 was the worst.
N64 was the worst because it was
I can
Christmas
remember
Eve. It was
driving all over the Bay Area trying to get PS2s the day that it came out.
Yeah.
It was insane.
It was impossible. It was impossible.
PlayStation
right?
Store had a lot, but there's a long line.
Yeah, but we were camped out outside Targets and Toys R Us. I mean, we sent people from here actually out to stores all over the Bay Area trying to find them, and there just weren't any.
Wow, I remember. So, like, other Christmas Eve memories. Baldur's Gate for PC. Way
That came
back
out Christmas
then.
Eve, didn't
Came
it?
out on Christmas Eve, and I still lived in Houston at the time, and we had a very rare occurrence, which was a winter storm that actually had ice in Houston. Of course, at that time to get games in for Christmas Eve was all UPS overnight delivery, right? So the plane that had the Baldur's Gates on it had slid off the runway at the airport that it landed at, and somehow or other they actually managed to offload the cargo on it. I mean, UPS back in the day, I mean, I don't know if they still do this, but I mean, they were really diligent. They knew people were counting on this stuff or whatever, and they came like we were closing. It was Christmas Eve. We were going to close at like whatever 5 o'clock. The UPS guy's like, well, I can get there, but it'll be like 5:30. So me and one other person stayed at the store until like 6 p.m. when the dude finally showed up with like 2 big cases of Baldur's Gates and sold them to the like 50 some odd PC people that were sitting there waiting for Christmas presents. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
There were a lot of really happy people there.
Yeah.
This one dude who was like a really regular customer, his name was Philip, used to come, and he was like so ecstatic that we did that. It was like, I just remember him really well. He was like so excited about it. Anyway, that was cool. You have the Christmas story of hell, the recent one that someone
Can we
gave me.
do that now?
I had to include one. Well, it fits. It fits right here.
This one's pretty epic. All right, this is from VideoStar. I work at GameStop. Last year, Wii's were nearly impossible to find, as we remember. We would get about 3 every week, but would literally get over 100 calls a day from lazy parents who waited to the last minute to get their holiday shopping in. Many were kind and understanding about the situation they put themselves in, but others were belligerent assholes who felt a sense of entitlement. I had a rather bad experience with one of the former of these type of customers. The day before, I had a huge number of Wii calls. We were expecting 3 the next morning. I told everyone who called they were more than welcome to come and wait for the shipment to show up. The next morning, 4 nice ladies showed up. I explained to the last one that there were only 3 Wiis on the way. She was a bit frazzled, but left without causing a riot. I let the 3 ladies in the store early so they would not be stuck on the cold, and we had a rather fun morning chatting as I helped the other customers. At about 11:45 a.m., I got a call from an older lady asking if we had Wiis. I said, well, we have 3 on the way, but... And before I could tell her they were already claimed, I heard the sound of the phone being handed over to someone else. Oh, you have Wiis? A new lady said. No, as I was trying to tell the other lady, we have 3 on the way, but they've already been claimed, and there are these 3 nice ladies who've been waiting here since before the store opened. I'm sorry. I know it's a frustrating situation, but we're doing the best we can to get as many Wiis as possible, I said sympathetically. Well, I'm sorry you're frustrated, but you don't have to take it out on me. You know, I work at a hospital, and you would not believe the kind of people out there. I am sure those ladies that you are talking about are unemployed or on welfare and have nothing better to do than to sit around at your store all day. I have a real job. I don't have time for something like that, she had the nerve to say. Well, ma'am, I'm pretty sure these ladies are here on their day off trying to do their best to get a Christmas present for their kids on Christmas. And I seriously doubt any of them is on welfare. I'm sorry you're upset. Like I said, we're doing the best we can do. I can't believe you're treating me like this. I'm going to speak to your manager and tell him you should be fired. I am the assistant manager. If you want to talk to the manager, he'll be here in about an hour. Click, the lady hung up on me. The 3 nice ladies then asked in unison what the heck had just happened. I explained word for word what the lady had said. One of the ladies was apparently also a nurse. She declared that she was going to track this lady down and tell her what she thought of her. A few minutes later, a manager of a close-by store called and asked me what the hell had just happened. I explained, and he told me that he had just happened to get in his shipment right as the asshole lady had called, and he was holding one for her so she would not call into corporate and complain. I thanked him and apologized and told him that I had no idea what had set the lady off. About an hour later, the manager called back and said that the asshole lady had come in and told him that I was insane, probably fat, and going to die of a heart attack. God damn, that lady was a fucking bitch. He finished. Yeah, and that reminds me, like, a lot of people who wanted N64 as that fateful Christmas were totally unreasonable and insane.
Unreasonable as hell.
Yeah.
And the sad part is like, the bad news here is that you teach these people that actually doing that works, because she got her Wii. And the same thing I think happened a lot of times in the N64 cases. Like, people would go and raise hell, and then they got their way.
We had to call an ambulance for this guy that was trying to get a 360 because he kicked through our glass door.
Whoa!
Like, it cut something in his leg, and there was just blood gushing everywhere. He was so pissed off we didn't have one. As he was going out the door, he slammed the door, went back, and went to kick it, and his foot went right through the door.
Holy shit!
It was fucking insane.
Wow.
People do get really wrapped at Christmas time. We're telling you stories, and we haven't gotten really too much into the consumerism side of it. But it is sad to see the consumerism side take a hold of people. So,
my favorite story.
Stressfully.
Brian Intihar used to be. His big story at retail was he saw two ladies fighting over a copy of Spice World.
What?
And it's like his favorite story. He told it many times. Yeah, because Spice World is terrible. It's a terrible game for PlayStation 1 about the Spice Girls.
It was like a bust a move game, right?
But worse. Yeah, and he witnessed a fight break.
Or bust a groove. Sorry, it was bust a groove
over the
Spice
last copy of Spice World.
And they actually got into like a
verbal
cat fight.
Yeah, two mothers. Yeah.
Didn't get physical, at least.
He kept them apart.
Oh my god!
Wow.
All right, so we do next on a different, whole other wavelength. Kurane says, whenever I think of good holiday gaming memories, it's not usually a specific game or event that took place, but rather a certain atmosphere or mood that's accompanied it. So, more of a solitary tradition, really. During one winter in particular, I kidnapped an amazing wicker chair to use as my gaming chair. It was towards the end of its life and kind of fell apart later the next year, but the chair was all kinds of comfortable, especially when paired with a knit wool blanket that I took with me when I left. Contributing to the atmosphere was a blue overhead light that barely lit up the room. Not very practical, I know, but I thought it was cool at the time. So there I was, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, blue light, wicker chair, wool blanket, and a PS1 controller in hand, playing through Icicle Inn and Final Fantasy VII. Seemed pretty fitting winter gaming at the time, and whenever I want to get nostalgic, I don't have a blue light anymore, but I'll curl up in a blanket and play whatever RPG I'm into at the time, definitely my winter genre of choice, and that'll do just fine. It's kind of an interesting, that's like a much more
pleasant, even
pleasant philosophical approach to it. What else we got?
I got a pleasant one here, too.
All right, cool.
From Cambot 3000. It's kind of the twofer. My worst holiday gaming memory would be the Christmas of 1989. That was the year that both the Genesis and the TurboGrafx 16 were released, and I spent half the year agonizing over which one to ask my parents for. I chose the Genesis, not TurboGrafx.
Yeah, I was Genesis, too.
Knowing that I would only be getting one, all of my friends chose the Genesis, but NEC's promise of a CD-ROM add-on finally managed to convince me that Turbo was the better long-term investment. I'll never forget hooking up my shiny new console and turning on pack-in game Keith Courage and Alpha Zones. He says one of the worst games he's ever played. It's not that bad. By the time the Turbo CD came out, most local retailers had already given up on the console, so I never even managed to get the peripheral that sold me on it in the first place. Soon after, I quit playing games entirely. There's a happy ending. That's probably why my best holiday gaming memory was the Christmas of 2000, 11 years later. I was slowly getting interested in gaming again, but as a poor college student, I couldn't afford a PS2. However, my girlfriend at the time went to her parents' house and unearthed her Super Nintendo, and we hooked it up at my apartment. I had spent the Christmas break catching up on Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Secret of Mana, and Earthbound. Thanks to my hiatus from gaming, they were all new to me, and I'm guessing I had way more fun that year than any of my friends who were playing the bouncer on the new PS2s. 8 years later, I still get the urge to play one of those RPGs every year around Christmas.
That's a really cool story.
Nice.
Pleasant story.
Got another one from 2000 from My 10 Cents. Every year, all my family would usually get together on Thanksgiving, and usually it was a boring time and nothing to do until in 2000 I got my Dreamcast and a copy of NFL 2K1. I brought my Dreamcast down that year, and for the next 6 years had a fantastic time playing the same game with all my cousins and my family who weren't picking sides and cheering in the background. Even while owning NFL 2K5 for the Xbox, it was still 2K1 that had to be brought. Since 2006, I've gone with my fiancée to her family Thanksgivings and Christmases for that matter, so I've not been able to square off with my family in 2K1 for quite some time. That was a very good game, 2K1.
Yes. It was a very good game.
Yeah.
It was lightning in a bottle, definitely.
We had one guy in my dorm who got a Dreamcast, and he had 2K1, but for some reason he loved that fucking fishing game, and that's all he would ever play.
Sega Bass.
Yeah.
With the
Sega Bass was awesome.
with the motion controller
and everything.
I played me some Sega Bass.
Yeah.
Definitely played some Sega Bass.
Get Bass.
2K1 was the one that had the interface that was like the circle, right? And you would move the analog stick to pick the plays. Remember that?
I
It had
think
a
so,
really,
yeah.
really unique kind
of came in around.
Yeah.
Well, and the other great thing about that game was when you were playing with someone at the same television was you could call your plays on the VMU and not have them on the screen at all.
Oh,
so you didn't have to bluff at all. You could actually just call them right there
I also
in your
remember
VMU.
that was the first console football game I'd seen with online play, and I remember being amazed that it had online play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things about that system. A lot of them. A lot of good memories from Dreamcast Holiday. A lot of
I
good memories.
found a VMU in a drawer the other day.
I have like 7 of them.
I forgot how chunky they were.
Why don't you go buy 2 CR3023 batteries to make it work again?
I have several packs of those even. So I have like 3 or 4 gray ones. I have like a red one.
You can
a green
download
one,
some
a
really
blue one.
really fun games to it.
I found a Pocket Station as well.
I was gonna say, I still have like the Metal Gear Solid Pocket Station.
I have a white one that has like
You
the
can't.
black loop
Wait.
on it.
Shane Bettenhausen, you cannot make fun of fun games on the VMU because you just said you love Skies of Arcadia, and the Pinta Adventure
Pinta Quest is not fun.
wrong.
VMUs suck, dude. They
They
last like 2 hours.
it was a really good
nice idea.
Yeah,
It was a nice idea.
They always the batteries run out, so every time you boot up your Dreamcast, they make a hideous beeping sound like.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
I still think they were cool. I like the
Dreamcast,
idea.
we hardly knew you.
Dreamcast, we hardly knew you, you poor thing. Yes. All right. Well, anyway.
I've gotten one more great story. But
All right.
I think you have a good one too. This one's
No, he doesn't.
this one's sexy. This
Ooh, a sexy one.
Well, not as sexy as the other one I read.
Is it as sexy as this picture of Lara Croft that you drew?
Similar. This is from Final Fantasy Ruler 88.
Oh, this is a good one.
Chick magnet.
It seems to have started in the middle. The exact same day, the next year, we were all gathered at my cousin's house for Christmas dinner. Well, since we spent a lot of time there, I begged my dad to let me bring my PS2 and all my games. After some initial back and forth, he finally agreed. I guess it should be mentioned at this time, I was only 13, and about a month earlier, I'd bought GTA 3, this brand new game. It only been out for 2 months, and it was revolutionizing the gaming world. Well, when we got there, I went back to the backyard where my 3 male cousins, all of who were about 5 years old, and the exchange student who was staying with one of the families were playing basketball, despite it being negative 20 below zero. Well, I calmly told them that I brought my PS2, to which they answered, all right, cool, but seemed content to play basketball. Then one of my cousins asked me what games I had. I started listing off Madden, NHL Crash, and I quietly added GTA 3 to make sure my parents didn't hear. Well, my 3 cousins were gone in a shot into the house to set up the PS2, and none of them had played the game yet, leaving me behind laughing with the foreign guy who's wondering what's going on. I walked inside trying to explain. Eventually, we started playing, and that's all we did all night. After supper, 2 of my aunts came down to find out what we were doing. My cousin, despite my objections, decided it'd be hilarious to go jack a car, shoot some people, pick up some of the hookers, and get busy with her all while my aunts watched. Luckily, they'd had a few already, and they thought it was hilarious. I could not have been more scared. Eventually, when we were called to leave, I was standing in the doorway holding the box that contained my PS2 and all the games. My dad, my aunt, and my grandma were standing there too. My dad turns and looks at me and says, son, I heard about this video game you were playing. I had the fear of God in my eyes. He said, is that the kind of game you think your grandma would approve of? Me? I said, no, as I bowed my head and walked out the door. I had never quite walked so fast in my life. Luckily, it was the only time he ever brought it up.
Skated.
Those 5-year-olds learned a lot that night.
Wow.
Seriously, right?
How old are your sons?
My oldest is 5. He's not ready for GTA 3.
Not. I would guess not. Not ready for any hooker pimp slapping or any of that crazy
Probably
shit.
not, no.
Let me see what else we got here. We have the Pumpkin Man, who has a sort of interesting holiday timing related story. It says between October and Christmas, as has never been a gaming boom in my house. It's more like a gaming depression. See, my mom gets really angry if I buy anything for myself during this time because she doesn't want me to ruin my Christmas, and she wants me to spend it on presents for others. Nothing wrong with buying things for other people, though, right? So instead of playing every new game as they come out, I watch them go by and sadly wave at them as I indulge myself in everything One Up has to offer on games I want to play. I play games that I own during the year. I love Sony platformers, Jax, all that kind of stuff. I normally play one game from each of those series, and I normally start off a game from my pile of shame, and I never end up finishing them before Christmas. This year I prepared myself, though. I bought a PS3, Little Big Planet, and oh yeah, but after Thanksgiving, I'll pick up a game off my pile of shame and continue the tradition of not finishing it before Christmas.
I think I'm spent on mine.
We done?
Yeah.
You done? What else? So I have two quick ones, which I really like. Tebian says, this is hard to say, but I totally remember getting that cool yellow machine that we hooked up somehow to an RCA console TV we had at the time.
Fairchild F?
Blip, blip, blip. We thank you, Santa, for my Pong.
Oh, okay.
And I remember mine being brown.
Yeah, so was ours.
Fairchild F was yellow or orange.
Was it? So maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was Fairchild Up. And this reminded me, when I read this reminded me of actually my very first video game console. So this was like when I was a kid and I was growing up, and it was the year that I got my first...
Space Wars?
The year that I got my first bike. And I remember that
was it one of the bikes with the really big wheel in the front and a little wheel in the back?
Yes.
Did you put cards
Penny
in your
farthing?
And my dad was really disappointed because he'd gotten a bike too. Like we were like a little father son ride bikes together.
Tandem bike? That'd have been awesome.
All that kind of stuff, right? But I was so fascinated because I also got the green tank game that was like hooked up to your television. It was just gray. It was like, it was just gray blocks.
Was it like Combat?
It was like Combat. It had two sticks on each side, right? And you could hook it up, and it had lots of variations on two tanks driving through little blocky maze, shooting little blips at
But it was
each other.
awesome.
It was so fucking awesome. Like over and over and over we'd play. It was like there was like mode where like the tanks would disappear or they would flash or you couldn't see the different pieces of the maze. Anyway, that was...
And that reminds me, because I had a 2600, but then my cousins... They got like the Texas Instruments computer that was...
It's a Timex Sinclair, TI-99.
TI-99. And the games were awesome. Like,
it had a speech module on it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Defender ripoff that
the games were so much better than 2600. I was so upset that they had that. I never got it.
Really?
I'm still mad about it.
And prior to the Madden playing, then when I was at my mom and stepdad's house, we were always playing on their Apple II. We had the Craft joystick to play Elite. Do you remember the Craft?
That joystick sucked.
It's like shittiest little joystick. It had a little, like the insides of a ballpoint pen for the stick.
It was analog.
It was analog. Did it center even? I don't even know. It was a bad joystick.
It was really funny. You had little trim tabs on the side of on each of the.
Oh yeah, so you could recalibrate it because it would always drift.
It would always drift. Oh yeah,
that takes
trying to fight it.
That reminds me of being at my friend's house who had an Apple II, and we were playing through King's Quest 2 around Christmas time, and you had to use a yellow highlighter to get the hints actually in the book.
Yeah.
I was in charge of highlighting.
Wow,
good times.
And then we'll just wrap this up here because I think Stealth Mantis has a great one for Christmas traditions. It says, I have a long-standing game-related Christmas tradition with myself. Every Christmas Eve for the last 11 years, and this will be number 12, I play at least one complete level with both characters of Christmas Nights for Saturn as the last thing I do before I go to bed. And that is possibly the coolest of all these fucking stories. That's really cool.
That is pretty cool.
That is really cool. Anyway, I'd like to just say thank you to everybody. Like, we have pages and pages of stories, and the response from the community was awesome. I think it's really cool you guys shared this stuff, and I'm going to leave it up as long as people
keep it going.
As long as people keep adding to this, I will leave the thread up because
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, we can always come back to it.
Yeah,
if you have ones that are even more heartwarming or more depraved, we want to hear them.
Yeah, bring it. I don't know. I'm a goof for Christmas. I fucking love Christmas.
I used to until I worked retail.
Andrew, I used to when my first place that I sat here was over by Andrew, and he would go nuts because I'd start playing Christmas music like the week before Thanksgiving, and he'd be like, "You can't play Christmas music yet." It was awesome.
Yeah, as I said, retail made me hate Christmas. The only Christmas songs I like now are like depressing, slow blues versions of Christmas.
You're gonna laugh because I thought it was awesome. Like my favorite part of going to work would be like going to the mall because they have the Christmas music on.
No, in fact, at EB, my last year there, I brought in my Holiday Sax depressing Christmas CD that I own, and my manager.
Is that how you refer to Kenny G's Christmas CD?
It was bleak, and my manager was so upset. He was like, "People are leaving the store because of your depressing Christmas music." He took it out and he snapped it in half.
Oh my god! Well, it used to drive Suzanne nuts because when I was a DM, one of the stores we had was the Arizona Mills Mall, and right next to it was Spencer's, and Spencer's plays like the really goofy, crazy,
Spencer Gifts. That also takes me back. Spencer Gifts is a very. I used to not even to start with Spencer Gifts.
Anyway, Spencer's would play, of course, the obligatory Spencer's Gifts Christmas music,
right.
And it's like on a short loop, and it's like repeating these same songs like every hour. Or so.
Probably Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Oh, yeah, of course, in 30 different
So
variations.
are you more kind of the Chris Cornell Ave Maria cover and stuff like that? That he did the really kind of like grim.
The darker, the better.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So from the One Up Yours crew, happy holidays while you're out there and enjoying it. We'll be back next week with a more regular show. John, you can be with us most of the holiday season, you think?
Yep.
Awesome. Dave, you here? Shane, we're all here, right?
Yeah.
So there you go, folks. I hope you're having a great holidays you guys tell them happy holidays.
Bah humbug. I'm looking forward to making a turkey.
You're making your own. You made
I
so
always make
by
turkey.
now you'll have eaten it.
I will.
So we want a turkey
Oh,
report.
and tomorrow's my birthday. Happy birthday, me.
It's your
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to me.
birthday.
I'm old.
Happy birthday.
You forgot how old you were, though. So
I did. I'm younger than I thought I was,
Yeah.
so that made me happy.
Oh wow.
Yeah. When you start losing count, I'm sure you might have lost count. by now.
I've
you
lost count.
definitely lost count by now.
Whatever. Doesn't bother me.
he can't figure out how the Roman numerals work that high.
All right.
50 is what, L?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not to 50. Give me a
No, but you start
fucking
counting
break.
down. That's what Roman numerals were.
Start coming down.
Counting.
We're not going to be counting down from 50 for several more years. I have plenty of
Several
leeway.
more.
So a handful or number for a number of years. I won't be counting down from 50 for a number of years.
All right.
All right, there you go. Thanksgiving confirmed. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next week. Until then, we are Ghost.